Chapter 3474. Xiaohua only felt a black shadow flash before his eyes, as if the entire night had pounced on him. That black shadow was shaped like a dragon, but also like a scimitar. Then, a kind of extreme fear appeared in his heart, and that fear instantly spread throughout his body. Before this fear could subside, another sharp pain came from his left arm. Xiaohua couldn't help but scream. When he looked down again, his left arm had already been chopped off from the middle. Before Xiaohua could do anything else, that severed arm had already been swept up by the black shadow and fell into the devilish energy. Roar! The sharp pain in his body had yet to subside, and many of Xiaohua's primordial spirits screamed in unison. Especially that orange giant, whose left arm was also severed, rolling around in pain inside Xiaohua's bones. Xiaohua's mysterious dark cloud also rapidly flickered, and that dark green color greatly decreased. Looking at the dragon vein, body, and even the primordial spirits in the space were all heavily injured. The power of that black shadow's attack was actually so powerful. Xiaohua was heavily injured by that black shadow. Not only did the spirit-slaying Yuan light disappear, the sword gourd floated in the air, and the 300 zhang golden body rapidly shrank, gradually turning into a normal human form. Since the spirit-slaying Yuan light disappeared, Gu Zhen's primordial spirit recovered. Gu Zhen's eyes became even redder, and he let out a beast-like roar. The Buddha's demonic hand fell down and firmly controlled Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua was about to be turned into meat paste. All of this happened in a flash. When Xen came to her senses, Xiaohua's body had already fallen into Gu Zhen's demonic hand. Even if Xen wanted to activate her life-saving golden hairpin, it would be too late to do so. Amitabha. Just when Xen was in despair, a crisp voice was heard. This voice sounded very childish, but the tone was filled with vicissitudes of life. "Si Hui." Xen was startled, and immediately became overjoyed. She hurriedly looked around, because that voice didn't have a fixed origin, it just floated in the space. Unfortunately, Xen opened her golden eyes and looked around for a moment, but she didn't see any familiar figures. However, when she saw Gu Zhen, she was puzzled. Gu Zhen, who had been extremely arrogant and wanted to kill Xiaohua, now seemed to have been imprisoned. He stood there in a daze, his blood-red eyes staring into the distance. The Buddha's demonic hand that could crush Xiaohua with a single move also stopped. Xen was not the only one who was confused. Even the golden body in the shape of a heavenly king was confused. The heavenly king failed to activate the giant palm and asked, "Great monk, what are you doing? As long as we kill this Tao cultivator, you and I will be able to obtain the immortal artifact. Senior Tianlong will be able to condense a relic for you with this immortal artifact. With this relic, you will definitely attain Heavenly King Buddha fruit in the future. Not to mention the Heavenly King Buddha fruit, even if it was the Buddha fruit, I wouldn't care for it." Gu Zhen finally opened his mouth. His tone was extremely indifferent. In order to hear this voice, in order to meet this person, this poor monk is willing to go to the 9 hells or the 9 springs. Gu Zhen's words reverberated in the air. Every word contained the fervor and care in his heart. That's right. Just before entering the longevity hall, the benevolent Manjushri saw Gu Zhen trying to devour his relic. He immediately woke up and thought that Gu Zhen's so-called search for his younger brother was a lie. At that time, Gu Zhen admitted it without hesitation and denied his real purpose of looking for Gunyan. At that time, Gu Zhen had decided to give up everything for the ancient Buddha relic, including himself, even if he had to turn into a devil. However, the development of the situation was such a joke. Now that Gu Zhen had really turned into a devil, the voice that he had been thinking about day and night appeared again. The ancients often said that a single slip would cause everlasting sorrow. When you look back, you will be 100 years old. Perhaps this was the case. Xen was stunned. She seemed to have suddenly understood something. However, the heavenly king did not know. He was very confused. Who is this person? Is this the person who is chanting the name of Buddha? Gu Zhen frowned slightly. "Great monk, aren't you this poor monk's demonic golden body? Why don't you know this poor monk's thoughts?" Amitabha. The heavenly king said indifferently. This poor monk is you, but you are still you. This poor monk cannot replace you. Naturally, the heavenly king's words revealed a flaw. However, Guzhen did not pay attention to it. He only waited quietly. It seemed that he had enough patience to wait for this moment. As Xen listened, she looked in the direction Guzhen was looking at. In the distance, a faint figure slowly appeared. It was a little monk in a monk's robe. Of course, this little monk was not benevolent. However, the little monk looked a little panicked, as if he was afraid of something. However, Xen could see that under the little monk's panicked expression, his eyes were extremely bright and filled with determination. Dumbo? Dumbo, is that you? Guzhen's voice trembled. His golden body also trembled as he asked softly. Seeing the shadow that he had seen countless times in his dreams, Guzhen's hundreds of years of patience could no longer be held back. The little monk also trembled as he answered, "Big brother, it's me. I'm Dumbo." Guzhen originally wanted to ask, "You're not dead yet?" However, when he saw the little monk's dim figure, he could only change his words. "Big brother, I didn't expect to see you one day." "Yes. Big brother." The little monk's eyes flashed with tears. "I also didn't expect that I would be able to endure until this day. All these years. If it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to see Big brother." Do you hate Big brother? Do you want to scold Big brother personally?" Guzhen's ferocious expression disappeared, replaced by kindness as he probed. The little monk smiled. "How can I blame Big brother? It's my life's fortune to be able to die for Big brother. Big brother, do you know? You've been my everything since I was young. You're my sky. You've done everything for me. I've always thought about how to grow up, how to repay you, how to think of you and do so much for you. Even if I can do one thing for you, I'll be happy. I've been cultivating diligently in Crimson Reed Temple to repay Big brother. When I've succeeded in my cultivation, I'll be able to protect Big brother. I've been praying for Big brother in front of Buddha every day, hoping that Big brother will live a peaceful life. And Buddha really did hear my thoughts. He actually gave me a chance to die for my elder brother. It's true, Big brother. I've never blamed you. Even when I fell into an illusion and was lucky enough to leave my soul behind, the only person I've been thinking about is you. Big brother, you're my only family in this life. Dumbo." 2 drops of blood flowed out from Guzhen's eyes as he raised his head and roared. "Big brother." The little monk continued, "I was originally hiding in the illusory array to avoid the devil dragon. However, a few days ago, I met that interesting little monk. Seeing that he was able to escape from the illusory array, I curiously followed him. I never thought that I would be able to see Big brother. However, Big brother, your current situation is very bad. You've been invaded by the demon dragon. Look at your golden body, it's filled with demonic runes. Look at your eyes, they're blood red. Big brother, I don't know what the demon dragon promised you, but I know that you and I are Buddhist disciples. No matter what, we can't dance with demons. That's why I took the risk to come out and see Big brother. Now that I've said what I need to say, I'm willing even if the demon dragon eats me." "Amitabha," the heavenly king said flatly. "Big monk, don't be fooled. This Dumbo is the manifestation of the mystic water control flag, and he's here to stop you from taking the immortal item. If you take the flag away, I'm sure that the little monk will disappear." Guzhen's blood-red eyes looked at the heavenly king, then at the little monk, and even at Xiao Hua, who was still writhing in the Buddha's hands. "Amitabha." The heavenly king waited for a moment before he chanted, "Big monk, you're so indecisive. How can you attain Buddha's fruit if you can't sever your mortal bonds? If you're unwilling, I'll end it for you, won't I?" "Shut up." Guzhen snorted coldly and cursed. "I've never told anyone about Dumbo. Even in front of Ci Hui, who had become a Manjushri Bodhisattva, I lied. Even Tipu and Xen wouldn't know what Dumbo looks like. How could they conjure him?" "Oh, big monk." The heavenly king tried to persuade him. "The mystic water control flag is an immortal item. It could read your mind." "Big monk," Guzhen said flatly. Do you know why I've taken the path of Dharma protectors? The Heavenly King did a double take before his eyes shifted. It's for Dumbo, of course. That's right. Do you think I would let you destroy him if you know I'm doing it for Dumbo? Gu Zhen asked sinisterly. The Heavenly King was confused. But Dumbo is just an illusion. You're wrong. You're terribly wrong. Gu Zhen said, enunciating each word. For Dumbo, I could give up my Saraira and let my cultivation go to waste. Why would I let you destroy him? Not even if it's an illusion. But the Heavenly King didn't know what to say. Even if it's an illusion, the immortal item has found my weakness. That's why I have to bow down. Gu Zhen said flatly. I can choose not to believe in everyone in the world, and I can choose not to believe in all the Buddhas, but I can't not believe in my Buddha and Dumbo. I believe that the Buddhists would forgive me if I repent before the Buddha every day, so that I can see Dumbo again. Likewise, I believe that Dumbo would live for centuries in an illusory array just to wait for me. Amitabha, you are unreasonable. The Heavenly King shook his head. Demon Dragon, leave. Gu Zhen sighed. I command you with the Buddha's orders. Can the Buddha control me? Do you really think he would show himself here? The Heavenly King finally laughed. Moreover, can you still leave now that things have come to this? Even if the Buddha is willing to control you, he wouldn't be able to, would he? Brother! The young monk cried out, tears flowing unwittingly as if sensing something. Chapter 3475. Amitabha. Gu Zhen's golden body put his palms together, bowed his head and said piously, If I have Buddha in my heart, I see Buddha everywhere. If I have Buddha in my heart, I am Buddha. In this life, my heart belongs to Buddha, and in the next life, my heart belongs to Buddha. Thank you, Namo Amitabha. I thank you again. Then, Gu Zhen patted the top of his head gently, and a benevolent look appeared on his face. He looked at the little monk and said, Dumbo, I'm sorry for not being able to take good care of you. I hope I can still be your big brother in the next life. I swear, I'll take good care of you. The Heavenly King was also stunned. He said anxiously, What are you doing? How can you do this? The Heavenly King realized what Gu Zhen was going to do. He shouted in disbelief. He really couldn't understand how Gu Zhen, who was filled with endless evil, could do such a thing. Gu Zhen raised his hand, and the golden body collapsed. Pieces of it turned into Buddhist light. As Gu Zhen's golden body collapsed, so did the Heavenly King's golden body. Only a thick stream of demonic qi was left hovering in the air. Similarly, the Buddha's demonic hand disappeared, revealing the injured Xiao Hua. Exen watched from the side. She didn't have the Dharma golden body, so she was like a child in front of Gu Zhen's golden body and Xiao Hua's Dharma body. She was dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. After listening to Gu Zhen's words and seeing what he did, she really didn't expect that Gu Zhen, who was so easily taken advantage of by the mystic dragon, would be so obsessed with brotherhood. His devotion to Buddha even surpassed that of all the other arhats she had met. No! Seeing the golden body turn into nothingness, Gu Zhen's blood-red eyes were still staring at the little monk, unwilling to disappear. Exen suddenly realized something. Gu Zhen might not be really devoted to Buddha, and his last words might not be fully believed. He's gambling. Of course, Exen didn't know what Gu Zhen was thinking and whether his concern was real. She could only judge others by her own standards, but what was Gu Zhen's real thought? Perhaps only the Buddha knew the answer to that. Thinking of this, Exen's mind once again turned sharply, looking at Xiao Hua, who was already dispirited and listless in midair. Xiao Hua's left arm had not regenerated, the place where his arm was severed was surrounded by black gas. The continuous heavy injuries had already made him temporarily unable to deal with them. Exen had an indescribable feeling in her heart. She sighed inwardly, forget it. Humans naturally have a human form. Only by becoming Buddha can one have Buddha nature. There's no need to think too much about Gu Zhen's intentions. Since he had an obsession in his heart, he was able to abandon it at the critical moment. Although he did not sever his worldly desires, he had severed his own. But in the end, it was severed. He has no regrets in his life. When he looked at the little monk again, he saw that his face was filled with grief. Where was the fear from before? Just like Gu Zhen, in order to see his brother, he had been lonely for hundreds of years in the illusory matrix. But who knew that the moment he saw his brother, he would have to part with him again? How could he not be heartbroken? Not everyone could bear the pain of witnessing the departure of a loved one. The little monk flew in midair, wanting to touch his brother's body before he left. Unfortunately, Gu Zhen's words before he committed suicide did not move the Buddha. The heavenly flower and the heavenly maiden disappeared and never appeared again. His soul also did not appear. The little monk could clearly feel his brother's gentle gaze, but he could not see anything about his brother. The path of Dharma protector was originally a void. Gu Zhen had passed away, and the heavenly king had also perished. Mo Long's meticulous plan to kill both Buddha and demon had also failed. The Xinyuan water control flag shone brightly, and jade talismans of various sizes emerged from the brilliance. The jade talismans that were previously excluded from afar also flew towards the flag. Good. XNXN nodded slightly and urged the auspicious cloud to fly towards Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua was severely injured, as long as they could escape from the Xinyuan water palace and get away from the battle between immortals and demons, XNXN was confident that she could save him. Just as XNXN flew for about 30 meters, the space suddenly shone with a bloody light. A dragon's roar soared into the sky. XNXN saw a sea of scarlet before her eyes. A dragon several meters long rushed out of the jade talismans, carrying with it a frenzied demonic aura. Not good. XNXN was shocked and cried out, "Mo Long." However, contrary to XNXIN's expectations, the demon dragon did not attack the flag after rushing out of the jade talismans. Instead, it rushed directly toward Xiaohua. "Little monk, be careful," XIN hurriedly transmitted. Unfortunately, no matter how fast her thoughts turned, she could not compare to the speed of the demon dragon. Furthermore, Xiaohua was currently in a weakened state. He had no time to react to the demon dragon's charge. Before XNXIN's words could reach him, the demon dragon had already opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Xiaohua's left arm. Ah! XNXN covered her mouth in shock. She felt an indescribable stabbing pain in her heart. A feeling of disbelief suddenly arose in her heart. Could it be that the little monk is going to be eaten by the demon dragon? The development of the situation once again exceeded XNXIN's expectations. After the demon dragon swallowed Xiaohua's left arm, it did not continue to devour the rest of Xiaohua's body. Instead, it rapidly shrank. The dragon's body shrunk from several meters long to several feet long, just like before Xiaohua lost his arm. What was special was that after the dragon shrunk, the bloody light around it flashed again. The black flames within the bloody light transformed into thousands of tiny demons that roared and swam up and down. An arm that was exactly the same as Xiaohua's previous body suddenly grew out. Following the transformation of this arm, the previously dispirited and listless Xiaohua suddenly opened his eyes. The silvery white pupils in his eyes disappeared and were replaced by a bloody red. This bloody red did not contain any other emotions, only savagery. Roar! Xiaohua raised his head and roared. The demonic aura around his left arm surged and quickly spread towards the rest of Xiaohua's body. At the same time, Xiaohua's body expanded once again. Demonic aura and black flames surged out from the pores of his body at the same time. Just as XNXIN was dumbstruck, the demon's body that was over 100 meters long appeared in front of her eyes. Xiaohua was currently wearing a bloody armor that completely covered him. Above the armor, millions of demons roared at the same time. The bloody light of the armor was mixed with black light, illuminating the surroundings. The black light pierced through the pearls that surrounded him one by one. That light even gave birth to tiny demons that frantically devoured the pearls. Looking at the top of Xiaohua's head, the two horns on his head flashed with a faint golden light. Strands of golden light flowed along the demonic aura like flowing water, penetrating into the space between the demonic aura and the bloody light. What made XNXN even more shocked was that in Xiaohua's left hand, A pitch-black demonic saber suddenly appeared. This demonic saber was only a foot long. The front part of the saber was damaged and the tip of the saber could not be seen. This demonic saber looked unremarkable, but in Xian's eyes, she could not help but feel frightened. Because this demonic saber was pitch-black and enchanting. When her gaze swept past it, her entire mind felt like it was being pulled in. Moreover, the moment her mind was slightly distracted, her eyes and mind were filled with bloody red. One after another, ferocious demons of unimaginable shapes appeared out of thin air. When she finally shifted her gaze away with great difficulty, she saw the hilt of the demonic saber. The demonic saber did not seem to have a hilt. The entire demonic saber was connected to Xiaohua's left hand. It looked like a part of the bloody armor, but also like a part of Xiaohua's left arm. In an instant, Xian understood. Previously, the demonic dragon was the demonic saber's transformation. When the demonic saber chopped off Xiaohua's left arm, it wanted to devour Xiaohua's flesh and blood, and then fuse with Xiaohua's body. But now, needless to say, the demonic saber must have already corroded and taken over Xiaohua's body. Of course, as for why the demonic saber wanted to take over Xiaohua's body, and not Guzhen, and even more not Xian, when she thought about how Xiaohua's wound did not bleed and how there was even a lingering black aura around his wound, Xian, as a Confucian cultivator, knew that it was because Xiaohua himself practiced demonic arts. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. Xian felt a burst of relief for no reason. She was so relaxed that it was as if she had unloaded a heavy burden of 10,000 jin. However, just as this relief passed, she felt a burst of emptiness. That relief was even more like a small thorn that pierced into her heart. Xian's heart was filled with a myriad of thoughts and feelings. The demonic god Xiaohua roared again, and the demonic aura around his body flourished. As Xiaohua raised his hand, rumble, a sound that was 100 times louder than mountain torrents and ocean waves vibrated in the surroundings. The space that was previously filled with the jade talisman had already been gradually occupied by the overflowing demonic aura. No matter if it was under Xian's feet, the surroundings of the Xianyuan water control flag, or even the top of Xian's head, there were faint waves of demonic aura that were frantically corroding everything. Where's the little monk Gunyan? Xian suddenly thought of the little monk when she looked around. Fortunately, there was no trace of Gunyan in the vicinity. With the little monk's alertness, he was able to survive in the illusion array for several hundred years. I'm afraid he can also avoid this kind of crisis. But how can I escape? Looking at the surging demonic aura, as well as the devil that was just born because of Xiaohua's existence, Xian didn't know what to do. The brilliance of the Xianyuan water control flag in front of her had already dimmed in the demonic aura. However, in Xian's eyes, it was incomparably warm. This was also her only hope. Almost without thinking, Xian urged the auspicious cloud to hastily rush towards the Xianyuan water control flag. Perhaps because the Xianyuan water control flag had already been suppressed by Xiaohua's demonic aura, the distance that Xian couldn't get close to previously was now easily closed again. Xian's thinking was still too optimistic. Her hope was naturally the despair of the demonic god Xiaohua. How could that demonic saber let her have her way? Xian had only flown a few feet when she saw Xiaohua, who was 1,000 feet tall, waving his hand and laughing coldly. Ha! You bastard flag, you have suppressed me for 1,000,000 years, isn't it very satisfying? Today, let's also change positions. I'll let you have a good time. Chapter 3476. Demon god Xiaohua waved his left arm, and the broken blade drew a pitch-black blade mark in the air. The blade mark was like blood, and it cut open the void. Spatial cracks spread rapidly along with the blade mark, and slashed towards the Xianyuan water control flag. At the spatial cracks, countless tiny devils, either laughing or wailing, also rushed over. Kacha! A soft crack sounded, and the entire space shook violently. The brilliance around the Xianyuan water control flag, which couldn't be shaken by Guzhen's Buddha demon hand, was now easily split in half like a chicken's shell. The Xianyuan water control flag swayed slightly, and the brilliance on the flag's surface was completely restrained. Presumably, if the devil blade was waved again, the Xianyuan water control flag would be greatly damaged. Unfortunately, after one slash, demon god Xiaohua's body rapidly shrank, and his left arm drooped down slightly, as if his strength was exhausted. Alas! Demon god Xiaohua's voice sounded again, and it sounded very helpless and regretful. This body is very good, but it's a pity that my cultivation of the Devil Realm's devil technique is not good enough. After I control it, I'll have to temper it even more. I'm afraid that with hundreds of millions of blood spirits, I'll be able to achieve small success, right? After this voice, Xiaohua waved his left hand again, and the devil blade flashed with black light, and a tidal wave of devil chi rushed into it, and then Xiaohua's devil body expanded again. What should we do? Xen just recovered, and her originally calm heart became anxious again. She once heard that when the Xianyuan water control flag was unfurled, all evils would retreat and nothing could invade it. Since the devil blade had been suppressed by the flag for 1,000,000 years, how could it be a match for the Immortal Realm's immortal artifact? But she didn't expect that when the devil blade moved, it would have such power, and even the flag couldn't resist it. Then what kind of Devil Realm's immortal artifact was this devil blade? Control? Yes, it must be controlled. Suddenly, Xen realized, whether it's immortal artifact or devil artifact, they are all dead objects, and if no one controls them, they can't be used. Unless the immortal artifact or devil artifact has its own spirit. The demonic saber transformed into a dragon because it had devoured thousands of blood essences. It was not the true spirit of the demonic saber. Although the demonic saber could attack, it could only fight against cultivators of the mortal realm like the little monk. It was useless against the Xianyuan water control flag. The devil blade could only rely on the little monk's physical body and the little monk's devil technique to unleash a true attack. As for the mystic origin water control flag, it's a defensive immortal artifact. It doesn't have any means of attacking. She even needs someone to activate it. When Xen realized this, before she could look at the Xianyuan water control flag, the flag immediately flashed a faint light and flew towards Xen. An immortal artifact was indeed an immortal artifact. Xen had just seen the mystic essence water control flag flying, and in the next moment, the flag had already appeared in her hands. Seeing that she had unexpectedly obtained an immortal artifact, Xen was not as ecstatic as she imagined. Almost without thinking, she touched her chest with her hand and a drop of blood came out from the tip of her heart. Xen's face instantly turned pale. When the blood from the tip of her heart dripped into the Xianyuan water control flag, the flag shone brightly. Xen hurriedly performed a Taoist technique and urged her true chi to hit the flag. The flag flashed rapidly, and a wisp of aqua-blue crystal thread came out and entered between Xen's eyebrows. The flag gradually shrank, preparing to rush into Xen's Naiwen palace. But at this moment, Xen's face showed a painful expression. The crystal thread between her eyebrows split open and dark red blood flowed out. Xen's physical body trembled at the same time. Even the golden light emitted by the palace dress could not stop it. Xen's physical body could not contain the Xianyuan water control flag and showed signs of collapsing. How could it be so easy to control an immortal artifact? If you could control it, I would have found a body 1,000,000 years ago. The demon god Xiaohua, who had grown into a 300-meter-tall demon body, laughed mockingly from the side. If you're willing, you can be Laozi's servant. Laozi will teach you the Tao of dual cultivation. After 1,000,000 years, perhaps you'll have such a heaven-reaching opportunity. Swoosh! The brilliance of the mystic Yuan water control flag receded and the crystal thread was sucked into the flag. Immediately after, Xen's blood droplet appeared on the flag once again. However, this time, the blood droplet was much smaller than before. Xen's face was ashen. She opened her mouth and the essence blood flew back into her mouth. The mortal artifact. Sure enough, it was not something an ordinary person could control, even if it was someone as strong as Xian. Little flag, your good days are over. Demon god Xiaohua roared, and half of the devil blade chopped down again. Quickly return to my embrace. I will love you. Xian almost did not think at all. She urged the true qi in her body and rushed it into the Xinyuan water control flag. The flag received the true qi and immediately emitted a blue brilliance. When the brilliance was born, the true qi in Xian's dantian seemed to be sucked in by a big hand and was instantly emptied. However, along with the brilliance of the flag, countless true qi of heaven and earth appeared out of thin air and poured into the flag at the same time. A sparkling and translucent jade emerged from the Xinyuan water control flag and blocked the devil blade. Ka! The jade broke, the devil blade retreated, and the brilliance of the Xinyuan water control flag receded again. Seeing this, Xian's heart was like a mirror. The battle between the Xinyuan water control flag and the devil blade was a battle between her and Xiaohua. The Xinyuan water control flag and the devil blade were equally matched, but she was far from Xiaohua. Xiaohua's devil technique was insufficient, but he had a corporeal body. The devil blade could block the first attack, but she could not block the second attack. As for whether the Xinyuan water control flag could block the third attack, Xian was not optimistic. The devil blade still had the ability to attack, but she did not. In the end, she could only fall into a desperate situation. If she wanted to live, she could only think of other ways before the Xinyuan water control flag was damaged. Take drastic measures. Xian looked at Xiaohua's shrunken body and her eyes flashed with determination. This is the only way now. As for the future, I can't explain it to others. Forget it, for today's escape, for the billions of creatures in the 3 continents, I'm afraid this is the only way. Since she had made her choice, Xian bit her lips, threw the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand, and flew towards the devil god Xiaohua. Kaka, little girl, are you ready to abandon the dark and join the light? The devil god Xiaohua's black qi was surging, and the countless devils around him were laughing wildly. This voice seemed to come from Xiaohua's mouth, but also seemed to come from the mouths of thousands of devils. Or, do you have an ulterior motive? Xian only pretended not to hear, quietly took out her golden hairpin, and accelerated towards Xiaohua. At this time, Xiaohua was still several zhang tall. Seeing Xian getting closer and closer, the devil god Xiaohua waved his hand, and a ray of devil qi blocked in front of her. Little girl, men and women should not touch each other. You are a Confucian cultivator, don't you know? I don't have the appetite to devour you today, so don't join in the fun. Wait until I take care of the little flag, I will let you go. How could Xian listen to this kind of bewitching? She clenched her teeth and inserted the golden hairpin into her chest. A blood-red golden brilliance was born like a sword river, and poured into the devil qi like a waterfall. Tens of thousands of devils wailed as they were killed. However, they only managed to erase the devil qi. The sword river didn't even get close to Xiaohua. Go! Xian was somewhat desperate. She pulled out the golden hairpin, and the blood-red hairpin turned into a meteor and rushed towards Xiaohua. The devil god Xiaohua sneered, and did not wave his devil blade. He only raised his right hand, and his devil palm grabbed the golden hairpin in his hand. Oh! The devil god Xiaohua screamed, and the golden hairpin fell out of his right hand, and directly inserted into his devil armor. Once the golden hairpin was inserted, golden light shot out in all directions, and the devil qi that was pouring into his devil body suddenly stopped. Even the several zhang tall devil body also stopped. Xian did not dare to be negligent, and once again rushed towards Xiaohua's head. When she was about 1 zhang away from Xiaohua's head, with a piu sound, the golden hairpin flew out, and Xiaohua's devil body moved again. Failed on the verge of success? Xian looked at Xiaohua's malevolent face, and her heart died. At this moment, the Xinyuan water control flag moved again, as if it knew Xian's thoughts. The previously dissipated fragments of the jade luo flashed and fell around the devil god Xiaohua. Although the devil god Xiaohua did his best to resist, he still could not stop the jade luo from falling. Following the disappearance of the Jade Luo's blue light, the devil god Xiaohua was once again unable to move. Little flag, you've used this move for 1,000,000 years. Don't you feel tired? Can't you change your position? Although the devil god Xiaohua was very helpless, he was still unable to move, and the scattered devils around him spoke up. The devil god Xiaohua's words were quite human, but people did not know if it was the devil blade's idea or Xiaohua's idea. However, the current Xian could not tell at all. She only saw that the devil god Xiaohua was motionless, and was immediately overjoyed. She hurriedly flew in front of Xiaohua, and looked at his malevolent devil face, as well as the countless devils and bloody light on his devil face. She stuck out her head, and extended her mouth. "Little girl? Are you in heat?" The numerous devils at the side asked very strangely. Indeed, if Xian was not in heat, then what was she? They saw Xian's lips, and her soft tongue gently pried open Xiaohua's mouth. She closed her eyes, and her tongue entered. Good heavens, this guy's luck with women is not shallow. We can also feel good now. The devils laughed loudly, but their laughter was still echoing in the air. From Xian's mouth, half of the dazzling golden core entered Xiaohua's mouth. As soon as that golden core entered Xiaohua's mouth, it immediately entered Xiaohua's middle dantian. This half of the core was like a resplendent golden star, completely illuminating Xiaohua's body. Within his middle dantian, the scarlet core that Xiaohua hadn't refined before seemed to be attracted and flew towards that golden star. The two cores collided. Boom! A muffled sound rang out. Golden and scarlet radiance carrying dense true qi seeped out of Xiaohua's middle dantian and directly rushed out of Xiaohua's demonic body. That radiance was like a sword, easily destroying the demonic blood armor. Large amounts of decaying blood were cut off from Xiaohua's body, and the demonic tools that swarmed over were forced to retreat. Chapter 3477. Xian clearly did not expect that Xiaohua actually had a scarlet Dan core in his body. Her originally extremely disappointed expression was now filled with anger and grievance. However, since things had already come to this point, there was no point in regretting. She bit her lips with all her strength, causing them to turn white. Only then did she circulate the last of her true energy and fly back to the Xinyuan water control flag. Xian had already done everything she could. As for whether Xiaohua could control the devil dragon or not, that was not something Xian could know. Looking at Xiaohua again, the devil armor on his body had just been shaved off by 30%. Inside Xiaohua's body, the golden and scarlet colors resonated with each other like fireflies. Boom, boom, boom. Countless awe-inspiring qi pierced through the air and bombarded Xiaohua's devil body. The rolling devil qi was like ice and snow meeting boiling water, instantly melting away. What is this? The devil god Xiaohua seemed to have yet to regain consciousness as he cried out in surprise. Xian coldly smiled and said, "It seems like you're not the real devil blade's true spirit. You don't even know this?" In the Confucian Cultivation Enlightenment book, there is an awe-inspiring cloud map. The 5 qis gather in the universe. The heavenly heart shakes the 4 continents. This is my Confucian Cultivation's heavenly heart. Heavenly heart? Heavenly heart. So what if it's the heavenly heart? The demonic dragon was extremely arrogant. If you give this half of the heaven's heart to this little monk, you can stop me from controlling his corporeal body. I can't use the demonic body to destroy the flag, but how can you stop me from controlling his primordial spirit? With a heart in the chest, the body will be upright. With a relaxed posture, the primordial spirit will be peaceful. Xian coldly smiled. I'd like to see how you'll control this little monk's primordial spirit. Although Xian's face was very calm, she was very anxious in her heart. Her heavenly heart sounded very frightening, but its true use was not that. At this moment, she had no other choice but to give it to Xiaohua. On one hand, she wanted to stop the demonic dragon from invading Xiaohua's body. On the other hand, she wanted to awaken Xiaohua's mind that was bewitched by the demonic dragon. Only when Xiaohua's mind was awakened, Would this heavenly heart be able to help his mind return to its original position and fight against the demonic dragon for his body? Of course, Xian still had a move that could really take drastic measures, and that was to borrow the strength of the mystic origin water control flag to first suppress Xiao Hua, who had lost his physical body, and then chop off his head with a single sword strike. Since the devil dragon was separated from the devil saber, the mystic origin water control flag could naturally still suppress the devil saber. Of course, perhaps there was no need to go through so much trouble. If Xiao Hua's head was chopped off, Xiao Hua would naturally lose his life. Without Xiao Hua, the devil blade and the Xinyuan water control flag would return to the previous situation. Naturally, the devil blade would still be suppressed by the flag. However, Xian was still a bit hesitant because this was taking away Xiao Hua's life. Then I, your father, will let you see what is called, virtue is 1 foot tall, the devil is 10 feet tall. The devil dragon was obviously very conceited. After a sneer, it went silent. After that, there was no more after that. Xian did not hear the extremely conceited laughter of the devil dragon anymore. Extremely strange. Xian tried her best to open her golden eyes, but the devil god Xiao Hua suddenly closed his eyes. Then, for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, there was no movement at all. However, immediately after, the bloody light above Xiao Hua's head flourished once again. That surging devil qi uncontrollably rushed up to the sky from the top of his head. Ooh! In the midst of sobbing, the Xinyuan water control flag's jade luo was suddenly rushed out of a several mu wide gap. Oh no! Xian turned pale with fright. She took a deep breath and the pale gold color on her face reappeared. She really wanted to urge the last trace of gold qi to chop off Xiao Hua's head. Ooh! The flashing gold and red colors around Xiao Hua's body suddenly disappeared. Countless amounts of devil qi once again gushed out from Xiao Hua's skin. This devil qi circled around Xiao Hua once, and that thick devil armor appeared once again. Wang. Even the devil blade in Xiao Hua's hand began to become restless. A pillar of devil qi shot out from Xiao Hua's body and also rushed out of the jade luo under Xiao Hua's body. At the same time, Xiao Hua's devil body once again expanded, filling the heaven and earth. In the end, he was more than 300 meters tall. Xian stared blankly. Looking at Xiao Hua's mountain-like devil body, she couldn't help but bitterly smile. She couldn't help but hold back the gold qi in her mouth. She was secretly astonished. What's going on? My heavenly heart of Confucian cultivators is definitely not something that the devil dragon can control. Only those who have practiced Confucian cultivation techniques can control it. If the little monk's mind is invaded by the devil dragon, he can't possibly absorb the heavenly heart into his dantian. Just as Xian was hesitating, the sorrowful cry of a devil came out from the devil qi. The armor covering Xiao Hua's head immediately turned into the image of a malevolent devil. The sorrowful cry disappeared, and the devil disappeared at the same time. Immediately after, a sorrowful woman wept. Xiao Hua's face once again turned into a rather pretty woman. This guy. Xian suddenly understood. When she looked at the devil pillar that pierced through the heaven and earth, countless amounts of devil qi poured into it. Xian finally understood. This guy is actually refining the devil's spirit. He's too daring, isn't he? However, he's merely a cultivator of the 5th level of essence energy. At most, he's only a cultivator of the 6th level of essence energy. How can he easily subdue the devil dragon? Although Xian didn't understand, she could only resign herself to fate. In the end, the heavenly heart was already a meat bun, swallowed by Xiao Hua, who made Xian gnash her teeth in hatred. The true qi in Xian's body had already dried up. With the devil blade in Xiao Hua's body, she was no longer afraid of the Xinyuan water control flag. What else could Xian do? She looked at Xiao Hua's head, where the devil repeatedly appeared. Later, his entire body surged with a bloody light. Wailing and howling devils and resentful spirits appeared everywhere. Xian could only fly back to the left side of the Xinyuan water control flag. Seeing XNXN fly back, the Xinyuan water control flag approached XNXN as if it depended on her for survival. XNXIN's eyes flashed with a trace of joy. She waved her hand in disbelief and the Xinyuan water control flag flew into her hand. Looking at the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand that wasn't too eye-catching, XNXN was really overjoyed. Previously, she didn't think of subduing this immortal tool. She just wanted to find someone. However, when she came here, not only was there no one, she almost lost her life. Just now, she had the opportunity to subdue the immortal tool, but her body couldn't contain the immortal tool. Just when she completely gave up, the immortal tool was obediently delivered into her hand. The two heavens of sorrow and joy were nothing more than this. Of course, at this time, XNXN also somewhat understood that the Devil Saber's previous strike had damaged the Xinyuan water control flag, allowing her blood essence to seep in. Although her blood essence had only passed through the immortal tool once, the immortal tool also had a sense of closeness to her. In the future, if she painstakingly refined and sharpened it, she would be able to control this immortal tool. Of course, what made XNXIN feel most at ease was that since the Xinyuan water control flag took the initiative to fall into her hand, the Devil Saber shouldn't be in any danger. Xiaohua would also be fine. This feeling of relief came so suddenly that XNXIN was somewhat caught off guard. She even accepted it very naturally. However, holding the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand, XNXIN was still very vigilant. She observed Xiaohua's movements from afar and took some medicine. After an unknown amount of time, the devils around Xiaohua's body no longer appeared. The devil armor gradually withdrew into Xiaohua's body. At the same time, Xiaohua slowly shrunk until he was the same size as an ordinary person. When the devil aura on Xiaohua's face disappeared, he was once again a little monk in high spirits. However, this little monk's eyes flashed with blood red, revealing a gaze full of smiles. "Little monk," XNXIN called in a low voice. "Yes." Xiaohua looked down at the devil saber in his left hand and casually replied. "Tipu?" XNXIN called again. "I'm here." Xiaohua was somewhat impatient and unhappily replied again. Who are you?" XNXIN was still not at ease and asked again. Xiaohua raised his head and glanced at XNXIN and the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand. He curled his lips and replied, "This little monk is here. You can rest assured. This little monk is still a little monk and has nothing to do with that devil dragon. Oh, I also have to congratulate Xian Tanua. He actually obtained the immortal tool of the Dao sect. Truly unparalleled luck. Then what about the demonic spirit of the demonic god dragon?" Hearing Xiaohua's sour tone, XNXIN didn't mind at all. She probed again, because she really didn't understand. "That devil dragon? Oh, this little monk is currently teaching it how to read," Xiaohua said in all seriousness. "What? Learn how to read?" XNXIN was somewhat stunned. Xiaohua said with a smile, "Yes, this little monk is currently teaching it how to write the inscription, 'Entering a noble's gate is as deep as the ocean, henceforth Xiao is just a passerby.'" XNXIN didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She knew that Xiaohua was really perfunctory, but what she didn't know was that what Xiaohua said was the truth. In fact, when the Devil Saber's devil spirit seized Xiaohua's left arm, Xiaohua had already sensed that something was wrong. When the devil dragon began to control Xiaohua's blood drop paradise, Xiaohua knew that he was definitely not the devil dragon's opponent. Facing such a powerful opponent, Xiaohua was also helpless. When the devil dragon took control of his body, he hurriedly let go of his body and his mind wandered to the left side of the space. Just as XNXIN expected, that devil spirit was indeed condensed from the blood spirit of the devil saber from 1,000,000 years ago or even longer. During the days when it was suppressed by the mystic origin water control flag, the devil spirit had thought of all sorts of ways to escape. The heavenly dragon in the longevity lamp in the longevity hall was also condensed from a devil spirit. The ancient Buddha of the Manjushri Bodhisattva was enshrined in the longevity hall not to condense the power of faith like the devil dragon said, but to suppress the devil saber. When the ancient Buddha was present, the devil dragon didn't dare to appear. Only when the little monk, Ci Hui, took away the ancient Buddha and became the Buddha of the Manjushri Bodhisattva did the devil dragon dare to raise its head. However, Gu Zhen's body wasn't very useful, and the devil dragon couldn't possess Gu Zhen to enter the archbridge of the mysterious water palace. Therefore, the devil dragon could only bewitch Gu Zhen. Chapter 3478. In the beginning, Mo Long didn't intend to use Xiaohua's body because Xiaohua's performance in the illusion made Mo Long somewhat apprehensive. For 1,000,000 years, no cultivator who entered the illusion was able to escape. However, Xiaohua relied on the power of a soul cultivator to break free from Mo Long's control. Xiaohua's sobriety also made Xan sober up. However, when Xiaohua stopped Gu Zhen's Buddha demon hand and Mo Long used the demon blade to cut off one of Xiaohua's arms, Mo Long was shocked to discover that Xiaohua actually had the blood-dripping paradise's demonic technique. Moreover, Xiaohua's physical body was actually so strong. Only then did Mo Long have the intention to possess Xiaohua's body. In Mo Long's eyes, Xiaohua's mind was like a child's, unable to be compared to his own. Therefore, after obtaining Xiaohua's body, the first thing Mo Long wanted to do was to destroy the Xinyuan water control flag. Even if he couldn't destroy it, he had to heavily injure it. Only then could Mo Long escape with the demon blade. However, with Xion's obstruction and the Xinyuan water control flag's resistance, Mo Long actually couldn't control Xiaohua's body. Thus, the demon dragon could only try to possess Xiaohua's body. Seeing Xiaohua's weak state of mind, the demon dragon was like a scoundrel on the street who saw his beautiful wife walking in the dark. Xiaohua's trembling state of mind made the demon dragon feel relieved. However, when Xiaohua's mind hid in the space, leaving only a small portion as bait, Mo Long swaggered to devour this small portion of mind. Only then did Mo Long suddenly discover that he was no longer in Xiaohua's body. What awaited him was Jade Archive Xiaohua's smiling eyes, green-robed Xiaohua, soul cultivator Xiaohua's salivating mouth, and even bone-tempering Xiaohua's fierce gaze. Even in the face of so many primordial spirits, Mo Long still didn't care. In his eyes, they were just a few more lambs to satisfy his hunger. Only when he discovered that he couldn't move and could only let Jade Archive Xiaohua and the other primordial spirits wantonly devour him did he truly understand what it meant by entering a noble house is as deep as the sea. This was Xiaohua's territory, and Mo Long couldn't make the decision. Henceforth he really became a passerby with Xiaohua. "Little monk, who are you?" Seeing that Xiaohua didn't tell the truth, Xian felt was helpless, but she still stared at Xiaohua and asked, "Me? The little monk Tipu?" Xiaohua said to Xian with a smile, "You have already asked this question many times. No, you're definitely not Tip." Xian's face was pale. "You want to tell me who you are? Is that necessary?" Xiaohua slightly frowned. After that, he raised his left hand, and the devil blade gradually appeared. He said, "Wait for a moment. All right, I'll wait for your answer." Xian wanted to get to the bottom of things. "You have to give me an answer." Xiaohua raised the demonic blade and waved it in the air. The demonic blade turned into a demonic palm and grabbed below him. The remaining demonic chi in the space surged into the demonic palm. It took a full 6 hours for the demonic chi to be completely absorbed by the demonic blade. "Are you done?" Xian asked. She had enough patience. Xiaohua sighed, nodded, and did not answer. On the other hand, Xian waved the Xinyuan water control flag, and the countless pearls in the space instantly turned into thousands of brilliance and fell into the flag. It seemed that her method was many times more brilliant than Xiaohua's. "You can tell me now, right?" Xian still asked. Xiaohua smiled and said, "I don't think it's necessary to expose each other's identity. I think it's necessary." Xian replied with equal harshness. "All right, tell me who you are first." Xiaohua compromised. "I can't tell you my name, but I can let you know my true face." Xian bit her lips and replied. While speaking, a golden light slowly flashed on Xian's face, and an outstanding beauty was revealed. When Xiaohua heard that XN only said to show her true face, he immediately felt some regret. He was about to speak when he saw XN's extraordinary appearance, which seemed to be gnashing her teeth. Xiaohua was somewhat absent-minded for a moment, but then he smiled bitterly. The same magic power surged on his face, and Xiaohua's true face was revealed. Is this you? Is this your true face? You're not lying to me, right? XN seemed to be somewhat in disbelief and asked 3 more questions. Facing XN's doubt, Xiaohua shrugged and said with a smile, "Believe it or not, this is me. Of course, I can tell you my name, but you have to tell me too." Sigh, forget it. XN shook her head, a strange expression on her face. Women are really strange. Since you don't want to say so much, why do you want to know so much? Xiaohua muttered, but he didn't know that women wouldn't pursue the matter with people they didn't care about, but they would get to the bottom of the matter with people they cared about, because women were most afraid of being deceived. Before entering the profound water palace, XN knew that Xiaohua was a little inappropriate, but she didn't pursue the matter. But now, XN didn't know, but her nature made her pursue the matter. XN seemed to have heard Xiaohua's mutterings and became somewhat angry. Be content. Yes, I'm really quite content. Xiaohua nodded, but suddenly he came to his senses and hurriedly said, "Oh right, this little monk will now, sigh, there's no need. That half of the heaven's core is already in your dantian. How can I take it?" XN waved her hand. "Just treat it as a reward for saving me so many times." "Oh, okay." Xiaohua nodded. Immediately, XN waved her hand, took out half of the tortoise shell and handed it to Xiaohua. "Since I'm a good person, I'll give you the heavenly book as well." But Xiaohua looked at the tortoise shell. Although his heart was connected, he still asked curiously. "The heavenly book and the heaven's core are one. Since you have half of the heaven's core, it's useless without the heavenly book. Moreover, don't you want to cultivate the 5 Qis unification? Only by comprehending this heavenly book can you cultivate the real 5 Qis unification." XN explained and handed over the tortoise shell. "Thank you, XN." Xiaohua took the tortoise shell. The way he addressed her finally changed. However, he looked at it for a while and asked, "How do I read the heavenly book? Do I use the clear eyes technique? Or the divine sense technique?" Nothing at all." XN laughed. "I don't know how to read it either. Moreover, I'm afraid no one on the hidden Immortal continent knows how to read it." "What the?" Xiaohua held his forehead and said, "So the heavenly book is useless to you. No wonder you gave it to me. If you don't want it, quickly return it to me." XN's face turned cold. "Che, how can I return something that is in this little monk's hands?" Xiaohua flipped his hand and the tortoise shell disappeared. Xiaohua said proudly, "Not to mention the heavenly book, even the devil blade is the same. And there is also the devil spirit." XN slightly curled her lips. "That's right, then, how is the heaven's core together with the heavenly book?" Xiaohua immediately thought of the tortoise shell that Elder Wu gave him. "It seems like there is no heaven's core." XN did not find it strange. As if she knew Xiaohua's greedy character, she transmitted a few sentences to Xiaohua and finally said, "This is a secret technique. No one can know about it. Also, it must not be recorded on the jade eyes." Xiaohua beamed with joy and replied, "I gave you a lot of things. Are you going to give me something in return?" XN said indifferently. "What do you want? Just say it." Xiaohua smiled and said, "As long as I have it, I can give it to you." "Good. The 7 flying swords in your hand are not bad. Give them to me." XN said without any trace of politeness. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and nodded, "No problem." As he said that, he took out the 7 flying swords that were transformed by the illusory swordsman and said, "These 7 flying swords can form the 7-star sword formation. Do you need the sword formation method?" "No need." XN took it and shook her head slightly. Oh, Xiaohua handed over the 7 flying swords. Then he changed his mind and took out 2 flying swords. he said with a smile, these 2 flying swords are of better quality. Do you need them? Xian's eyes lit up and said with a smile, good, these 2 flying swords should be able to refine 2 Mandarin duck swords. I want them. These 7 flying swords. You can take them all. This little monk has no use for them. Xiaohua was rarely generous. So that's how it is. You have no use for them. No wonder you are so generous to give them to me. Xian returned the same words. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and said with a smile, if you don't want them, quickly return them to me. In your dreams. Xian also took back the 9 flying swords. Then, as if she had thought of something, she said, by the way, the magic wand in your hand, it looks like the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, right? You want my cudgel? That's my livelihood. If you take it away, how can I live? Xiaohua said with a pitiful face. Xian sneered and said, why would I want your cudgel? I just saw your generosity and suddenly thought of the refining method of the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel. What? You? How do you know how to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel? Quick, tell me. Xiaohua was overjoyed. How would I know? Xian said slyly, it should be someone else who knows, but I can't tell you. I only know what material this 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel is made of. That's fine too. Xiaohua took a step back. The 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel is called the 5 elements, but in fact, it is a 5 elements item. Since its name contains the 5 elements, its material must also be a 5 elements item. Xian explained, if you want to cast a cudgel out of the 5 elements, then you need to cast the cudgel from the 5 elements material. There are many 5 elements in this world, and there are many materials that can be used to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, such as Xian mentioned some materials, many of which were materials of the heaven cudgel, and even materials of the 5 elements cudgel. In the end, Xian said, looking at your wishful heaven cudgel, I'm afraid that it has a prototype, but when you use it, it can't penetrate the heaven and earth. The correct material of the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel should be the last material. Xian actually transmitted her voice, which seemed to be very secretive. Chapter 3479. What? It's these? Xiaohua was dumbstruck as if he suddenly realized something. Then he said regretfully, alas, it's true. I should have thought of it earlier. Well, have you encountered these things before? Xian was surprised. Xiaohua didn't hide it and nodded, it's true. But those things are too big. With my current ability, I can't take them away. Of course, if you have the ability to take them away and refine them, you'll be able to break free from the 5 elements and do as you please. Xian smiled, little monk, you still need to work hard. But speaking of the little monk, Xian's mouth twitched. At that time, Xiaohua laughed. But as he spoke, he suddenly thought of something and asked with a sad face, oh right, we've already taken the immortal weapon and the demonic saber. How do we get out of the Xianshui palace? Where's the exit? You've already taken the demonic saber and refined the demonic spirit. Didn't you get any information? Xian's expression changed greatly and she asked hurriedly. Xiaohua smiled bitterly, how would the demonic spirit know? Isn't that the same as the immortal weapon? I've never refined an immortal weapon. How would I know? Xian was also anxious. Forget it, forget it. Xiaohua waved his hand, we have such treasures in our hands. At worst, we'll turn around and kill everyone. First we'll pull out the tendons of that ancient Xianshui beast and skin it. Hee. Xian suddenly laughed, don't worry, don't worry. Follow me and I'll guarantee your safety. Xiaohua pointed at Xian with a helpless expression. He really didn't expect Xian to act shamelessly. What's wrong with me? You've lied to me and Hui for so long. Can't I lie to you once? Xian said with a smile. At this point, Xian suddenly realized something and shouted, right, where's fellow immortal Hui? Could it be that he's really like what Guzhen said, he's already achieved fruition? Amitba. Xiaohua put his palms together and said with a smile, although Guzhen has turned into a demon, his words should be trusted. If he said he achieved fruition, then he achieved fruition. It's because Ci Hui achieved fruition that Guzhen was stimulated? It caused his mind to become unstable, allowing the demon spirit to take advantage of it. One becomes a Buddha, and the other becomes a demon. The cause is different, and the result is also different. Alas, that poor little monk Gunyan. Xen felt a bit sad. Thinking of the little monk Zunian, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He glanced around and said, Xen, this little monk has some secrets of the devil's doctrine. I'm afraid it's not good for you to be here. Humph? What are you trying to do? Xen snorted and said, if you don't want me to look, then so be it. What's so great about that? Ah. Xiaohua chuckled. He reached out with his left hand and grabbed downwards. Devilish energy surged downwards, and soon after, hundreds of corpses followed the devilish energy into the air. Humph! Xen swept a glance, and once again let out a cold snort from her nose. Holding the Xinyuan water control flag in her hand, she flew to the side. Xiaohua also waved his hand without any trace of politeness, and a billowing devil chi condensed into a wall in front of Xen. Amitabha. Xiaohua chanted the name of Buddha, and said in a low voice, little monk, you can come out now. Amitabha. A faint shadow appeared in the air. It was the little monk that Xiaohua saw in the illusion before. However, at this moment, Gunyan's face was filled with extreme panic. He bowed and said, Gunyan greets you. Speaking up to here, Gunyan didn't know how to address Xiaohua. After all, Xiaohua chanted the name of Buddha, but in his hand he controlled the devil blade, and even swallowed the extremely terrifying devil spirit. This Xiaohua was far from the Xiaohua that he saw in the illusion. Xiaohua didn't care about Gunyan's fear. He waved his hand, and a little monk's body flew out from a pile of corpses. This body's eyes were tightly closed, as if it was in a deep sleep. Its face was exactly the same as Gunyan's. Gunyan? Xiaohua said in a deep voice, you're not willing to be used by the devil spirit, your heart is commendable. Your body was also preserved by the devil spirit when you were alive. I obtained the will of the devil spirit, and am proficient in the devil spirit technique. I can send your soul into your body. If nothing unexpected happens, you should be able to survive and see the light of day. Really? Gunyan was overjoyed, and asked in disbelief. Xiaohua said with a smile, of course it's true. However, before you survive, I still want to ask you, what's the deal with Wang Bianfei in the illusion? Could it be that he's also a resentful spirit of this place? All right, Master knows. Gunyan explained carefully in his joy, Wang Bianfei is this little monk's playmate in the illusion. He's not a resentful spirit of this place. As for what he is, this little monk also doesn't know. However, according to this little monk's knowledge, Wang Bianfei came to the illusion through the dream. Everything that Master saw should be his dream. Ah? There's such a miraculous thing? Xiaohua was a bit stunned. This was somewhat out of his imagination. This little monk doesn't know if what Wang Bianfei said is true or not. However, because I got to know him, this little monk had a place to hide in the illusion, and even a place to play. Therefore, I never thought too much about it. Gunyan was still careful. If Master wants to know if Wang Bianfei is speaking the truth, you'll know when you go take a look. And if you're willing, you can go with me. Xiaohua said with a smile. Yes, many thanks for Master's grace. Gunyan bowed deeply. However, just as Xiaohua raised his hand and prepared to send the soul extracted by the devil spirit back into the body, that Gunyan suddenly said, Master, this disciple has a presumptuous request. I don't know if I should say it. Just say it. Xiaohua nodded slightly. Can this little monk's big brother survive? Gunyan said softly. Xiaohua shook his head slightly. You were extracted by the devil spirit. I can send you back. If Guzhen really died, I'm also powerless. For me, Big Brother would rather walk the path of a protector. He didn't know that he would fall into the cycle of reincarnation. Gunyan's face showed a sad expression. Xiaohua said with a smile, Gu Zhen's matter was originally going to be discussed after I settled you down. Since that's the case, please wait a moment. While speaking, Xiaohua patted his forehead, and that Buddha Saraira stepped into the air. Seeing this, Gun Yen was pleasantly surprised. He bowed down and said, This disciple greets Buddha Lord. Bing! Buddha Xiaohua chanted the 9 syllables mantra. As the golden mantra fell into the air, Gu Zhen's soul slowly appeared. Big brother? Gun Yen couldn't help shouting and rushed over. Dumbo! Gu Zhen also wept softly. He reached out and hugged Gun Yen. The souls of the 2 brothers actually hugged each other and wept. After a while, Buddha Xiaohua said in a low voice, Gu Zhen, it's getting late. You should go. Yes, many thanks Buddha Lord. Gu Zhen put his palms together. Gu Zhen has sinned deeply in this life. I hope that in the next life. Speaking to here, Gu Zhen's face showed a somewhat bitter smile. The cycle of a protector is cruel. How can it be turned into a human body? Buddha Lord, Gun Yen shouted, this disciple is willing to give up the chance to live and let Big Brother take over this disciple's body. Gu Zhen roared, how can Big Brother let you enter the cycle of reincarnation? Stop arguing. Buddha Xiaohua said indifferently, I don't have such great divine ability for the time being. Don't think about such a beautiful thing. Yes, this disciple understands. Gun Yen lowered his head in disappointment. However, Gun Yen, step aside. I can help your big brother enter the path of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Although the karma of this life can't be attached to the body, after reincarnation, he can recultivate Buddhism. Buddha Xiaohua said indifferently. Many thanks Buddha Lord. Not only was Gun Yen overjoyed, even Gu Zhen was also somewhat overjoyed to the point of tears. Gun Yen hurriedly escaped from Gu Zhen's embrace and ran far away. Gu Zhen I, Nan Wu, shall be reborn in the name of Maitreya Buddha. I shall remove the karma of this life, all your sins shall be attached to my body. Buddha Xiaohua chanted Buddhist sutras. Endless Buddhist light from his mouth landed on Gu Zhen's body. Rays of black light flew out from Gu Zhen's body. Strands of green flames floated out and landed on Buddha Xiaohua's body. When nothing else flew out from Gu Zhen's body, his figure became increasingly dim. Many thanks Buddha Lord for transcending. Gu Zhen put his palms together and said, Lin. Buddha Xiaohua chanted the 9 syllables mantra again and was about to transcend Gu Zhen. At this moment, Gun Yen suddenly flew over and grabbed Gu Zhen's hand. He said to Buddha Xiaohua, Buddha Lord is merciful. Previously, Big Brother said that he would still be my big brother in the next life and would still protect me. Therefore, disciple is willing to enter the 6 paths of reincarnation with Big Brother. Dumbo. Gu Zhen was about to get angry again. Big Brother, you can't control me in this matter. Instead of having me chase after you, why don't you let me reincarnate with you? If you enter another reincarnation, I'll still be with you. No matter what you do in this life, I'll always be your little brother. Gun Yen said very firmly. Buddha Xiaohua was greatly moved. He really didn't think that there would be someone in this world who would give up on the chance of survival for brotherly love. Even so, he still advised, Gun Yen, I'm not the real Buddha Lord right now. I can't guarantee that I'll definitely let you reincarnate together. Buddha Lord, there's no need to say any more. To be able to reincarnate with Big Brother, disciple's life is already complete. Whether or not we can still be brothers in the next life is no longer important to disciple. Sai, that's right. Buddha Lord, disciple understands. To be able to walk through this life hand in hand with little brother, disciple is also satisfied. Gu Zhen reached out and grabbed Gun Yen's shoulder, pulling him into his embrace with a look of extreme happiness on his face. Namo Maitreya Buddha in the next life. Buddha Xiaohua's eyes were already wet as he chanted Buddha's name. Lin. But as the 9 syllables mantra descended, the souls of the 2 turned into light smoke and gradually disappeared. Ah, there's nothing better than brotherly love. Xiaohua sighed inwardly after sending the Buddha's Saraira into his Naiwan palace. Looking at Gun Yen's physical body, he waved his hand and a sea of fire appeared, incinerating the hundreds of corpses. The souls of these corpses weren't as lucky as Gunyan and were already devoured by the demonic dragon. Xiaohua couldn't revive them. Chapter 3480. Maybe. Gunyan was afraid that Guzhen couldn't enter the human path, so he wanted to enter reincarnation with Guzhen and lend Guzhen a hand with his merits? When XN saw Xiaohua take out the corpse of the evil spirit of Xianshui Palace, she knew that he wanted to find a body for the soul of the little monk Gunyan. However, when she saw only Xiaohua and Gunyan was nowhere to be seen, she couldn't help asking. Xiaohua didn't intend to tell her in detail. He told XN to use the Xianyuan water control flag to open the formation and briefly told her what had happened. When he heard that Gunyan gave up the chance to be reborn and chose to enter reincarnation with Guzhen, he couldn't help sighing. Looking at the sage river at dusk, he said with a sigh, "Since the little monk Gunyan cares so much about his brotherhood and bloodline, I'm sure even Buddha will bless him." Guzhen is not that bad. Xiaohua also sighed with emotion. If he didn't care about his brotherhood and believed in the sincerity of his brotherhood, I'm afraid I would have been killed by him even before the evil spirit appeared. Two brothers from the countryside, two Buddhas who have converted to Buddhism, have such true feelings. Why don't many people who have many extravagant hopes that others can't reach in their whole lives? XN looked a little lonely. Looking at the orange sunset that was as red as an egg yolk, she said faintly, "They can give up their kinship for power, they can give up their bloodline for rules, they can be ruthless for benefits. In their hearts, where did their kinship, bloodline and love go? Is it possible that face is more important than freedom? Is it possible that strength is more important than happiness?" Thinking of what XN said before entering the Sage River, Xiaohua knew that XN had endless worries in her heart. However, he didn't dare to ask too much. He just nodded and said, "Indeed. The most important thing in the world is love. Love is more beautiful than this sunset and more important than everything in the world." Unfortunately, this love was too simple, too easy, and too neglected by others. Many people gave up on love for their own pursuit. It's rare that Guzhen and Gunyan guarded their brotherly love until the last moment. They should be the happiest people in the world now. XN didn't change her appearance. At this moment, the afterglow of the setting sun shone on her face. Her eyes flashed with confusion and haziness, looking even more beautiful than the setting sun. Perhaps a faintly discernible sigh could be heard, as if it was the sorrow of the ages. Xiaohua didn't dare to look any longer. He placed his hands behind his back and accompanied XN to stand on the Saint River. He looked at the setting sun in the distance and didn't say anything else. "Little monk." XN looked at the red clouds in the sky and said, "In this life, perhaps we won't have the chance to meet again. You want me to call you that?" Xiaohua shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "Since we won't have the opportunity to meet again in this life, why must I know her name?" "Sigh, maybe you're right." XN frowned as she looked at the flowing water of the Saint River and said faintly, "But I think you're still upset that I didn't tell you my name. I don't understand. Little monk, can't you just suffer a little?" XN, "Is this little monk that vulgar?" Xiaohua smiled bitterly. "You already said that we won't meet again in the future. Why must we make it so clear? Besides, you're from a scholarly family. To this little monk, you're a colossus." Do you think I don't know what you're thinking?" XN curled her lips. "My name has always been XN. It's just that it's XN for old and new." "I told you long ago, but you're stupid, you didn't think of it. What's your surname?" Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "You only told me your name. Why didn't you tell me which scholarly family you're from?" "There's no need for that." XN shook her head. "You just need to know my name." I understand." Xiaohua nodded. "Actually, I already told you my surname in the profound water palace. Once you enter a noble family, you're as deep as the ocean. From now on, my dear Xiao is just a passerby. It's just that you're not much smarter than me and didn't understand. You. XN said the word, you, 3 times in a row. Without taking out her mount, Auspicious clouds appeared under her feet and she soared into the sky. Her voice was still filled with hatred. I won't see you in this life, and I won't be bothered to see you in my next life either. All right, we won't see each other for 3 lifetimes. I won't be seeing you off. Xiaohua raised his hand and smiled at XNXN. Seeing XNXN fly into the distance, Xiaohua was shocked again. He patted his head and thought regretfully, damn it, bickering is refreshing. But no matter what, I should have let this girl send me to Jinshan Temple. Ci Hui has already attained enlightenment. Who knows where he went? I know the location of Jinshan Temple, but can I find it myself? At this moment, XNXIN's voice fell into his ears like a mosquito. Oh right, little monk Xiao, I forgot to tell you. 300 li south of Saint River is Pingxi City. East of the city is Jietai Temple. The temple's abbot is a good friend of Ci Hui. You can go there and ask for the location of Jinshan Temple. Don't think too much. This is what Ci Hui entrusted to me before entering the profound water palace. And the person I'm looking for is really my nephew. XNXIN's words were so soft that they couldn't be heard. Of course, with XNXIN's cultivation, she wouldn't have flown too far. It could only mean that she didn't really want to say it. Thank you. Unlike XNXN, Xiaohua suddenly used the Buddhist lion's roar. After sending out the 4 words, he immediately used the wind evasion technique and rushed towards the south while laughing heartily. While flying, he was still imagining XNXIN's trembling face after being frightened by this thunderous sound. Damn it! XNXN wasn't the only one who was startled. Even the strange bird beneath her was so startled that its wings exploded and it almost fell from the sky. XNXN managed to stabilize the strange bird with great difficulty. She couldn't help but grumble. However, after a while, when the strange bird stabilized its flight, XNXN frowned again. This little monk is interesting. Where did he come from? It's not rare for him to have Buddhist and Taoist techniques, but how can the Devil Realm's techniques be in the same body as my Confucian cultivator's true qi? It's a pity that this little monk is so tight-lipped. I'm afraid it won't be easy to get any information out of him. Hee, little monk Xiao, they're really interesting. Alas, it's just that I'm afraid I won't be able to see such an interesting little monk again. The affairs of this world are really hard to understand. Xiaohua didn't have as many thoughts as XNXN. He flew 100 li south of Saint River. Suddenly he froze, dumbstruck. Although night had fallen, he could clearly see that the scene below his feet was the same as what he saw in the profound water palace's illusory formation. It was exactly the same. At the foot of the mountain ridge, which was not too high, a small stream gurgled in the darkness. Amidst the sparse aquatic plants, a few frog croaks could be heard. Beside the stream was a Bodhi tree. However, there was nothing under the Bodhi tree. There were only some tracks of ox hooves on the flat ground. There were no small monks or chess pieces. This. Xiaohua was shocked. Is this still an illusory formation? While he was thinking, the green light between Xiaohua's eyebrows flourished. Layers of dense lightning flashed in the night sky. Fortunately, the scene didn't collapse under the lightning and thunder, causing Xiaohua to feel slightly relieved. Just as Xiaohua was about to continue forward, his heart skipped a beat. He reached into his bosom and felt around. Hiss! Xiaohua couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. In his hand was the black triangle that Gu Nian gave him in the illusory formation. Damn it, what's going on here? Is this an illusory formation or not? Xiaohua didn't understand. An indescribable strangeness arose in his heart. Xiaohua looked around and even released his soul sense. He didn't find anything abnormal. Only then did he look at the triangle in his hand. This triangle looks a bit familiar, right? Didn't I also get a triangle when I killed Qinjian? Saying this, Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the triangle from the space. Just as he took it out, Xiaohua was stunned again. Strange. Normally, I would send things into the space. Why didn't I do it in the illusory formation? Why did I put it in my bosom instead? Could it be that the space can't be created in the illusory formation? It's a good thing that the secret of the space wasn't exposed in the illusory formation. Otherwise, how could Mo Ling be fooled? Immediately, Xiaohua used his transcendence vision to look at the triangle. It really was the same as the triangle that Gunyan gave him. There was an indistinct chess piece hidden inside. Since the two triangles had some origin, Xiaohua somewhat understood. Someone probably brought this thing to the Dawn Rain continent just like the appearance of the setting sun island. He didn't pass through the three natural formations and left it behind. I'll keep it for now. Who knows what it is? Xiaohua kept the two triangles, but his eyes were looking ahead. In the darkness of the night, there was a small village, and there was a disciple he took in the illusion. However, according to Gunyan, that was in Wang Bianfei's dream. He didn't know if Wang Bianfei still remembered. Was the thing that happened in Wang Bianfei's dream real? Unfortunately, the difference between dream and reality wasn't small. Xiaohua actually flew 100 li before he saw the familiar mountain village and familiar mountain ridge. This was much farther than the environment. Xiaohua very familiarly swept his divine sense over Wang Bianfei's home. However, when he saw that Wang Bianfei's home was pitch black without any light, he couldn't help but be stunned. He only saw Wang Bianfei once, and it was in the illusory formation. How could he know what Wang Bianfei's home was like at night? However, looking at the entire small village, other than a few farmhouses that were dark like Wang Bianfei's home, the other houses more or less had candles. There were also some children making noise. Xiaohua couldn't help but be somewhat puzzled. Chapter 3481. Thinking for a moment, Xiaohua descended from the sky and arrived at the neighboring house next to Wang Bianfei's house. The farmhouse's small courtyard didn't have any walls, only a few withered branches were inserted there. Xiaohua stood next to the fence that also couldn't be considered a gate. He put his palms together and said, "Amit-ba." As Xiaohua's voice entered the house, a 40-something-year-old man's head popped out from the flickering light. Then the man's head shrank back. A rather thin woman walked out with a gray thing in her hand. Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, the woman handed over the thing in her hand and said with some displeasure, "Little monk, you came to the wrong house. If you want to beg for alms, you have to go to the village. Master Wang lives there." Xiaohua smiled and hurriedly raised his hand. He said with a smile, "Auntie misunderstood. This poor monk isn't here to beg for alms." "If little master isn't here to beg for alms, then what are you here for?" Hearing that Xiaohua wasn't here to beg for alms, the woman hurriedly withdrew the thing in her hand and even changed the way she addressed him. Xiaohua pointed at Wang Bianfei's house and asked, "Excuse me, auntie, is this the house of little benefactor Wang Bianfei?" The woman nodded. "Why is little master looking for Wang Bianfei?" "Oh, I understand. Little master is here to find Wang Bianfei to paint, right?" Hearing this, Xiaohua was happy. He didn't need to find a reason, so he nodded and said, "Auntie is right. But why is there no one in little benefactor Wang Bianfei's house?" "Oh, little master, it's really unfortunate. I'm afraid you've come for nothing." The woman said exaggeratedly, "There's no one in Wang Bianfei's house, and I reckon there won't be anyone in these few days." "How can that be?" Xiaohua was anxious. This little monk is here on master's order to ask Wang Bianfei to paint. If he's not home, how can this little monk return? "Auntie, do you know where Wang Bianfei went?" "Hee, you've asked the right person. I'm afraid only I know where they went in this village." The woman said with a smile. "What does auntie mean?" This little monk doesn't understand. Xiaohua is even more baffled. This little monk heard that Wang Bianfei only has one mother in his family. Where can an orphan and widow go? If it were anyone else. I really wouldn't tell them. The woman was very mysterious. She lowered her voice and said, "Before sunset today, most of the villagers were plowing the fields and hadn't returned. Because my old man..." "Boy's mother, what are you doing there?" A loud roar came from the house. The woman trembled and hurriedly cried out, "Boy's father, I'll be right back." Then he finally said concisely, "When I came back, I bumped into Wang Yifei's mother. She locked the door and left with Wang Yifei. She said that she was going to Pingxi City. There was a rich merchant who wanted Wang Yifei to paint for them and wanted to stay in Pingxi City for a month. She said that she had 3 coins of silver. My goodness, 3 coins of silver. How many things could she buy with that? After sighing with emotion, the woman didn't dare to stay any longer and turned around to leave. Auntie, which direction is Pingxi City? Xiaohua hurriedly asked again. The woman raised her hand and pointed to the south again. She turned around and asked curiously, could it be that you're not a monk in Pingxi City's temple? Many thanks, Auntie. Xiaohua didn't dawdle with her. He hurriedly released his Buddhist awareness and swept it in the direction of Pingxi City. Xiaohua originally had a calm expression as he thanked the woman. However, his expression suddenly changed. Anger appeared on his face. He snorted faintly and immediately used the wind escape technique to fly away. Hearing Xiaohua's cold snort, the woman stared blankly and turned her head to look. However, where was Xiaohua's shadow in front of the gate? Ghost! The woman screamed and hurriedly rushed into the house. However, her hand was still tightly clutching the grayish food. Since there were people in this world, there were naturally good and evil people. Even if human nature was good, when faced with temptation that exceeded their own limits, it was inevitable that they would do something out of line. Therefore, as long as there were people in this world, there would be no pure land in this world. Even if it was the so-called pure land, even if it was the pure land that Buddha spoke of. In a dense forest 50 li away from the small village, only a few dozen zhang away from the main road, there was a small carriage parked. Beside the carriage stood a man holding a sharp knife. This man was none other than the Wang family's housekeeper. In front of him, there was a woman kneeling. Behind the woman was Wang Baifei, who was being firmly protected by the woman's hands. The woman hit the ground with her head and sorrowfully said, "Housekeeper, please take pity on us, mother and son. Just take the gold, we definitely won't dare to say anything. Moreover, from today onwards, we will never return to the village. This way no one will know that you took the gold. Why should you stain your hands with blood because of this?" The housekeeper took a step forward and pressed the sharp knife against the woman's chest. He smiled nastily and said, "Do you think we won't say anything just because you said so? Who knows what you think after you leave? I only know that dead people can't speak. As long as you are a living person, you can't keep secrets." Housekeeper. The woman was in despair. She grabbed the sharp knife with one hand and blood flowed from her fingertips. Finally, she pleaded, "If you want to kill, then kill me. My son is still young. No matter what he says, others won't believe it. Can you let him go?" The blood on the woman's hand dripped on her towering chest. Under the lantern of the carriage, it looked somewhat coquettish. The housekeeper's eyes flashed and unconsciously revealed a trace of a lewd smile. Looking at the child behind the woman, he smiled nastily and said, "How about this? I will give your child a chance. Thank you, housekeeper. Thank you, housekeeper." The woman didn't know what the housekeeper was thinking and hurriedly thanked him. Soon after, she said to Wang Baifei behind her, "Son, why don't you hurry and thank the housekeeper? You must remember, in the future, you must never say anything." Wang Baifei stood behind his mother. His fists were tightly clenched and his teeth had already bitten through his lips. He stared at the housekeeper without saying a word. At this moment, compared to what Xiaohua saw in the illusion, he was a bit more timid. "When did I say I was going to let this little bastard go?" The housekeeper laughed and said, "I see that you have some beauty. You might as well serve me. This gap is your child's chance. He will run as far as he can. After I am satisfied, I will kill you first and then kill him. How far he can run will depend on you." "You." The woman obviously didn't expect the housekeeper to say this and was really stunned. "You don't agree? Well, now I will kill him first." The housekeeper raised his hand and pretended to take the sharp knife away. "No, no, I promise you, I promise you." The woman hurriedly grabbed the sharp knife. Blood flowed out of her hand again. Then she hysterically shouted behind her, "Son, why don't you hurry and run, mother?" Wang Baifei cried and shouted. His hand tightly grasped his mother's lapel. He also didn't have the rare decisiveness in the illusion. Why don't you hurry and run? Wang Biafei's mother turned her hand and slapped Wang Biafei's face. The 5 bloody marks were deeply imprinted on his face and also hit his heart. At this moment, Wang Biafei didn't know what to choose. Fortunately, before he could make any choice, a faint voice came from above his head. Someone actually dares to bully this Zhao's disciple. He must be tired of living. Master? When Wang Biafei heard this voice, it was as if he woke up from a dream. He looked up at the night sky and shouted, Is it really you? I am not dreaming again, right? As he spoke, Wang Biafei thought of something and hurriedly said, Master, quickly save this disciple. When Wang Biafei shouted like this, the housekeeper and Wang Biafei's mother were stunned. Wang Biafei's mother hurriedly turned her head. The surprise on her face couldn't be concealed even in the darkness of the night. The housekeeper, without hesitation, grabbed the knife from Wang Biafei's mother's hand. However, when the housekeeper only took 2 steps back and was about to escape, he seemed to have thought of something. He clenched his teeth and revealed a ruthless expression. Using all his strength, he stabbed towards Wang Biafei's mother's chest. Nothing could be more vicious than this. This housekeeper actually felt that it was impossible for him to escape from Xiaohua's hands and wanted to drag someone down with him before he died. Only this kind of evil person would come up with that kind of vicious idea. However, the housekeeper's knife only pierced a few inches before it stagnated there and couldn't move forward anymore. Wang Biafei's mother couldn't see anyone in the night sky and was caught off guard when the housekeeper snatched the knife away. She wondered if she had heard wrongly and hurriedly turned her head back. Seeing that the housekeeper was about to attack again, she unhesitatingly spread out her arms and blocked in front of Wang Biafei, pouncing towards the sharp knife. Naturally, without Wang Biafei's mother pouncing in front of the sharp knife, her body couldn't move. Then, very strangely, she moved back half a foot before stopping. A gentle voice sounded in her ear, Sister-in-law, don't be afraid. This evil person won't be able to do evil again in the future. Master. Wang Biafei was really excited. He jumped on the ground and shouted, Where are you? Quickly come on. Xiaohua's voice laughed and said, Don't worry, isn't Master here now? In the night sky, a thin and tall figure covered in starlight flew over from a distance. However, when he got closer, his bald head spoiled the scenery. Master, it's really you. Wang Biafei saw Xiaohua's head and familiar face and couldn't help but shout again, Disciple isn't dreaming this time, right? If it's a dream, would you be in such danger? Xiaohua smiled, but there was coldness in his smile. He had seen everything that the housekeeper had done. He really didn't expect that there would be such a vicious person in this world. Compared to him, Xiaohua felt that Mo Ling was clean. Chapter 3482. This concubine greets, Master. Wang Bianfei's mother didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly knelt down to thank him. Xiaohua waved his hand. How could he let her kneel down? He smiled and said, Don't be so polite. I don't like empty etiquette the most. Mother, you see, what the boy said this morning is right. Wang Bianfei held his mother's arm and said happily, The boy really acknowledged a master in his dream. Now, Master is here. Do you believe it? Son, why aren't you greeting your master? Wang Bianfei's mother hurriedly pulled Wang Bianfei and said, You acknowledged a master in your dream. Now you have to kowtow. Yes, the boy knows. Wang Bianfei also remembered and hurriedly knelt down and said, Disciple Wang Bianfei greets Master. Xiaohua didn't stop him and nodded. Master doesn't have so many rules. It's the first time you meet, so kowtow a few more times. There's no need to be so troublesome in the future. Yes, disciple knows. Wang Bianfei obediently kowtowed 9 times before getting up. Xiaohua then took some medicine for Wang Bianfei's mother and walked to the front of the housekeeper. He looked up and down and slightly shook his head. The housekeeper's eyes were filled with despair and even some fear. However, Xiaohua didn't see a trace of begging for mercy. Thinking for a moment, Xiaohua turned his head and said, Wang Bianfei, yes, Master. Wang Bianfei helped his mother apply the medicine. Seeing the wound on his mother's hand heal, he was even more convinced. Hearing Xiaohua calling him, he hurriedly responded and walked to Xiaohua. Xiaohua asked, "Today's disaster, was it because you drew the portrait of Miss Wang and got the gold?" Wang Bianfei gnashed his teeth and nodded. Xiaohua asked again, "Is it related to Wang family?" Wang Bianfei didn't dare to speak carelessly. His mother hurriedly said, "Master, it can't be. Although Master Wang is a bit arrogant, he's not domineering. He still values my son. Since he rewarded the gold, he definitely wouldn't go back on his words. This must be his own idea." "Yes, Master." Wang Bianfei also echoed. From what this steward said just now, it should be that he was aroused by greed and wanted to harm this disciple. "What are your plans?" Xiaohua asked. Wang Bianfei thought for a moment and said honestly, "This disciple will listen to Master. Whatever Master says is what it is." "Master wants to hear what you think." Xiaohua shook his head and asked, "Master?" Wang Bianfei's mother wanted to speak but was stopped by Xiaohua. Wang Bianfei looked at the butler, who looked like a clay statue. He gritted his teeth and said, "Those who kill will be killed. If we don't kill him, the boy and mother won't be able to return to the village." "What else?" Xiaohua's expression didn't change as he asked indifferently. Wang Yifei's mother opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she didn't dare to say anything. That Wang Bianfei pondered for a moment, his face flushed red, and said in a low voice, "What is Master talking about? This disciple doesn't quite understand." Xiaohua smiled as he looked at Wang Bianfei and then at Wang Bianfei's mother. He knew that under his mother's protection, Wang Bianfei was like a flower under a big tree. All the wind and rain were covered by the big tree. He didn't know about the wind and rain outside. What he saw in the illusion was indeed what happened in the past. However, in Wang Bianfei's dream, it was greatly modified by Wang Bianfei. Thinking of this, Xiaohua found it funny. Not to mention Wang Bianfei, even if it was him, didn't he also have a wishful thinking in the illusion? Soon after, Xiaohua said, "Hee, Wang Bianfei, don't be nervous. If in the dream you met such a wicked person and killed him, what would you do? Didn't the little monk mention it to you?" When Xiaohua mentioned the dream, Wang Bianfei's eyes lit up. He pondered for a moment and said, "After this disciple kills this person, I will naturally destroy the corpse and destroy the evidence. Then, I will bring mother back to the village as if nothing happened. Even if the Wang clan discovers that the housekeeper is missing, they won't suspect this disciple." Have you ever thought that the housekeeper is deceiving you? When you leave the village, he will mention it to others. Or perhaps, when you leave the village, you will be seen by others? Xiaohua took advantage of this opportunity to patiently teach Wang Bianfei. When Wang Bianfei heard this, his expression slightly changed. He bitterly smiled and said, "Since Master said this disciple feels that it's better if we don't return to the village. Even if others didn't discover the housekeeper's matter, the entire village knows about the gold." When Wang Bianfei said this, Wang Bianfei's mother's expression greatly changed. She seemed to have thought of something. The Wang clan is wealthy, but the Wang clan is also powerful. No one dares to provoke them. Xiaohua says word by word, "Although your family's gold is much less than the Wang family's, if you can't protect this gold, not to mention the housekeeper, in the future, the Wang family servants and even the villagers will more or less find trouble with you. Jade is innocent, but possessing jade is a crime." Master's words are extremely true. Wang Bianfei's mother hurriedly smiled and said, "I always felt that something was wrong these few days. The Shenlauer's wife next door always came to borrow food from me. The village entrance. I won't say any more. Only today did I understand." "A few days?" Xiaohua was slightly stunned. He looked at Wang Bianfei and asked, "How many days have passed since you painted the tiger?" "Yes, Master." Wang Bianfei said, "That was 10 days ago. However, it should be because disciple dreamt of it last night that Master saw it." "Right, Master came out from inside. What about the little monk? He was originally a part of the illusion. He can't come out." Moreover, you won't be able to see him in the future. Xiaohua didn't hide and replied. Master? Wang Bianfei's face was somewhat sad. The little monk is quite good. Master also knows. Unfortunately, the world is unpredictable. Good people don't necessarily have long lives. Xiaohua looked at the evil housekeeper again. Of course, sometimes evil people also don't have long lives. Wang Bianfei, how do you think this housekeeper should die? Xiaohua moved his gaze away from the housekeeper's face and asked again. How should he die? Wang Bianfei was stunned. This question was indeed somewhat difficult for a child who wasn't even 10 years old. Let his head flow with pus, the soles of his feet bubble, and his body grow poisonous sores. Let him howl for 10 days and 10 nights until he dies. Wang Bianfei said as if he was telling a nursery rhyme. Good as you wish. Xiaohua said with a smile. Master, disciple just said it casually. Wang Bianfei replied in surprise. Let's forget about killing him. Find a hole to bury him. Hee, this evil person bullied you and your mother like this. If Master didn't come, you too would have died miserably in his hands. How can you let him die peacefully? Xiaohua pointed his hand. A trace of devil energy fell between the housekeeper's eyebrows under the cover of the night. The housekeeper trembled. His eyes that were originally looking death in the eye flashed with an unspeakable fear. The housekeeper's body could also move at this moment. Moreover, it was very powerful. This was because after the trembling, the butler's entire body was trembling, as if he was twitching and struggling. Even the muscles on the butler's face were twisting and trembling. Bean-sized beads of sweat instantly seeped out from his forehead, neck, and other parts of his body, soaking his clothes. Hee. The housekeeper opened his mouth as if he wanted to scream. However, his tongue was twisted into a ball. His throat was also uncontrollable. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. He could only howl like he was retching. Gradually, the housekeeper curled up into a prawn. His body seemed to have shrunk. Under the carriage's lantern, his face appeared particularly dark. After another moment, the housekeeper suddenly rolled on the ground. His head, hands, and body hit a tree and hit a stone. Strands of black blood seeped out from his body. This blood, sweat, and mud smeared on the housekeeper's body. He looked worse than a beggar. Wang Bianfei looked somewhat unbearable. Wang Bianfei's mother had already closed her eyes, not daring to look. Wang Bianfei couldn't help but say, Master, look? Xiaohua said indifferently, You have to remember, if Master didn't come, I'm afraid you would be even more miserable than this. Yes. Wang Bianfei bit his lips. His eyes flashed with a trace of unswerving determination. After all, he was born in a village. Although he was fated to become Xiaohua's disciple, no matter if it was hidden Immortal Continent or Western Paradise, they were both not good places. Xiaohua admittedly protected him for a while, but it was impossible for him to protect him for a lifetime. Wang Bianfei was also not comparable to Lu. Therefore, Xiaohua could only let him experience a little bit. Although this experience was somewhat cruel to him. Pa! A muffled sound echoed. Wang Bianfei's eyes jumped. He saw a thin crack burst open on the housekeeper's forehead. A pitch-black pus flowed out from the inside. Immediately, muffled sounds continuously came from the housekeeper's body. Cracks like a baby's mouth spread all over the housekeeper's body. Sigh. Let's go. Xiaohua slightly sighed. He knew that if he continued to look, Wang Bianfei's heart might not be able to bear it. He waved his hand and said. Wang Bianfei finally let out a sigh of relief and respectfully said, Yes, I will listen to Master's instructions. Go, bring the carriage over. Xiaohua pointed with his hand and said, Master, I will go. Wang Bianfei's mother rushed to go. Xiaohua smiled and said, There's no need for sister-in-law to go, let Wang Bianfei go. Mother, the boy will go, you just have to wait. Wang Bianfei hurriedly ran over and untied the horse's reins from the big tree. He pulled the horse over with great effort. That horse obviously refused to accept it. It shook its head and almost pulled Wang Bianfei to the ground. Wang Bianfei's mother's heart had long been pulled. But seeing that Xiaohua was silent and motionless, she also didn't dare to move. When Wang Bianfei pulled the carriage over with great difficulty, Wang Bianfei's mother couldn't help but run 2 steps and took the reins. She respectfully said to Xiaohua, "Master, please get on the carriage." There's no need for sister-in-law to drive the carriage. Xiaohua smiled and said, "It's already late. You and Wang Bianfei are both tired. Just rest in the carriage. This Xiao will drive the carriage." "How could I dare to trouble master?" Wang Bianfei's mother said very uneasily, "You are Wang Bianfei's master and also my savior." Chapter 3483. Get on the carriage, no need to be polite. Xiaohua took the reins and said unquestionably. Wang Bianfei's mother was helpless and could only climb onto the carriage. Wang Bianfei also nimbly jumped onto the carriage, but he didn't follow his mother into the canopy, but instead sat in front obediently. Xiaohua looked at this unusually intelligent child and smiled. He also floated onto the carriage and sat down cross-legged. He skillfully shook the reins and shouted, "Jia!" The carriage slowly moved towards the main road not far away. It was actually very obedient. The carriage started to move. Xiaohua didn't even turn his head as he waved his left hand. The housekeeper's blood-curdling screams came out one after another. By the time the carriage reached the main road, the blood-curdling screams had already become hoarse and gradually stopped. "Master," Wang Bianfei whispered, "if the housekeeper's corpse is found in the morning, what should we do?" "It won't." Xiaohua looked forward and said indifferently, "After half a cup of tea, not even his bones will be left. He will completely turn into a pool of black water." "See." Wang Bianfei sucked in a breath of cold air. The expression on his face was somewhat stiff. Xiaohua glanced at Wang Bianfei and said indifferently, "What? Are you regretting it a little?" "I don't regret it." Wang Bianfei's face immediately turned red and he hurriedly shook his head. "I haven't said what I regret yet. How do you know you don't regret it?" Xiaohua asked again. "Master." At this time, Wang Bianfei's mother spoke from behind. "This morning, I heard little Four talk about the situation in his dream. Is everything in it true? Does Master have the ability to transcend heaven and earth?" Xiaohua was stunned and nodded. "Yes, everything in Wang Bianfei's dream was done by me. Even on a normal day, I can also do it." "Since that's the case, can Grandmaster also fly with me and little Four?" "Of course." Xiaohua already understood what Wang Bianfei's mother wanted to say and replied with a smile. "Son, why don't you think about it? Why can Master fly with you and your mother? Why must we sit in this carriage? Didn't Master say to let mother and the boy rest in the carriage?" Wang Bianfei asked in confusion. "Master can fly, so where can't he take us to rest? Why must we do it in the carriage?" "Boy, I don't know." Wang Yifei was at a loss. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Let's not talk about it, we'll know when the time comes." "Oh right, Wang Bianfei, tell me, how did you dream of the little monk?" "Master, call him Little Four. This is his nickname. Master keeps calling him Wang Bianfei. This concubine feels that you are treating him as an outsider." Wang Bianfei's mother hurriedly said. "Good." Xiaohua readily agreed. Then Wang Yifei told her how he dreamed of the little monk and everything that had happened. The night slowly deepened. The sound of horse hooves, the creaking of the carriage, and the child's clear voice were like a happy song on the road. In the end, a child was still a child. As he spoke, he fell asleep on Xiaohua's arm. Xiaohua sent Wang Bianfei to the tent. Wang Bianfei's mother had already fallen asleep. It seemed that both of them were mentally and physically exhausted after the scare. Although they were excited just now, once they relaxed, they fell asleep easily. Xiaohua didn't care about the carriage anymore. He trusted the reins and let the horse stroll on the road. He frowned and pondered over what Wang Bianfei had just said. This Wang Bianfei was very strange. Since he was young, he could dream of illusions. In that illusionary realm, he first met Gu Nian. Gu Nian was frightened in the illusionary realm and was abnormally depressed. After seeing Wang Bianfei, he was naturally wild with joy and played with Wang Bianfei very happily. Just before Xiaohua entered the illusionary realm, there was also a Confucian disciple who entered the illusionary realm. However, that Confucian disciple was not as lucky as Xiaohua. He gradually got lost in the illusionary realm and never escaped again. As for Wang Bianfei, after hearing Gunyan talk about the terror of the illusion, he never dared to walk into the depths of the illusion. Therefore, when he saw Xiaohua in the illusion that day, Wang Bianfei said so many things that Xiaohua couldn't understand. As for the illusion that Xiaohua entered, it was naturally the illusion in his heart. This illusion just so happened to be entangled with Wang Bianfei's dream. This allowed Xiaohua to have the strange matter of accepting a disciple in his dream. What surprised Xiaohua even more was that Wang Bianfei clearly remembered the cultivation techniques and so on that he taught Wang Bianfei in the illusion. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, he would probably be able to cultivate immediately. Alas, it's really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Previously, I felt that Lu Yi was very smart. However, compared to this Wang Bianfei, Lu Yi is slightly inferior. Xiaohua said with a somewhat bitter smile. Of course, perhaps it's Wang Bianfei's unknown talent that created his intelligence. In the future, if this talent can be used for cultivation, then he'll be even more of a prodigy in my Dao sect. Actually, looking at Wang Bianfei's situation, it's more suitable for him to cultivate Confucian cultivation. However, no matter if he cultivates Taoist cultivation techniques or Confucian cultivation techniques, I can teach him both. The problem is, should I bring them back to the hidden immortal continent? Xiaohua was somewhat worried. If I bring them back, how? Put them in the Jianghu bag? If I bring them to the hidden immortal continent, how should I explain it to them? Wouldn't others know that I appeared in the western land of ultimate bliss? But if I don't bring them back, how will I settle them down? The night passed very quickly. When the sky started to brighten, Wang Bianfei and his mother woke up. Xiaohua took out 2 spirit jujubes and let them eat it. After another half an hour, when the sky was bright and there was actually a caravan of merchants passing by behind them, Xiaohua let Wang Bianfei and his mother get off the carriage while he drove the carriage to negotiate with the caravan of merchants. He used the carriage and horses to exchange for a few taels of silver. Seeing Xiaohua walking back with large strides, Wang Bianfei immediately stepped forward and bowed. Master, disciple has come to apologize. Disciple gauged the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain and actually doubted Master. It was really disrespectful. No matter. Xiaohua handed the silver to Wang Bianfei's mother and said with a smile, "You are still young, maybe you didn't think it through thoroughly. In fact, there are some things that you don't need to force others to know. As long as you understand it, your heart can live with it, and can face the heavens magnanimously." Yes, disciple will remember. Wang Bianfei said sincerely. Let's go. Xiaohua waved his big sleeve and covered the 2 of them. He said, the trivial matters are over, we should get down to business. Immediately, Xiaohua took the 2 of them and flew to the nearby mountain peak. Wang Bianfei and his mother saw Xiaohua's immortal method and unconsciously became excited. Their eyes looked left and right, very curious. Sister-in-law? Xiaohua pointed to the distance with his finger and said with a smile, there is a cave over there, clean it up a bit and use it as your and Xiao Xi's residence. We will stay here for 3 days. I understand. When Wang Bianfei's mother heard this, she immediately understood. She hurriedly took some of her belongings and hurriedly left. Xiaohua then beckoned to Wang Bianfei and said, Wang Bianfei, come here. Yes, master. Wang Bianfei walked over and carefully answered. Sit down cross-legged, just like what master taught you before. Xiaohua glanced at Wang Bianfei and instructed. Then, according to the instructions of the technique, sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Wang Bianfei didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly sat down cross-legged and turned his palms towards the sky to sense. As Xiaohua thought, Wang Bianfei and Lu Yi were very similar. Although they were already familiar with the technique, they couldn't sense the spiritual energy. In the following 2 days, Xiaohua taught the other techniques one by one. Wang Bianfei understood them more easily than Lu Yi, but the result was the same as Lu Yi. Xiaohua saw this and nodded slightly. He already understood something. He waved his hand and took out the soul bridge. He said, Wang Bianfei, close your eyes. No matter what you feel in a while, don't resist. Let Master help you take a look. Yes, Master. After seeing the technique taught by Xiaohua, Wang Bianfei no longer had any doubts about Xiaohua. He answered and immediately closed his eyes. Xiaohua threw the soul bridge in his hand. A dark green light flashed between his eyebrows. Countless soul strands stretched out from the magic eye imprint. As soon as these soul strands appeared, they immediately vibrated violently. An indescribable whimpering sound came from between Xiaohua's eyebrows. It sounded quite creepy. Following the trembling of these soul strands, strands of misty green light flashed out layer by layer. These strands of green light touched the soul bridge with the soul strands and also fell on the soul bridge. The bone ball that was originally quietly floating in the air began to slowly rotate. As the soul strands fell, the green light on the bone ball began to become dazzling. However, the bone ball's rotation was still relatively slow, as if Xiaohua's soul force wasn't enough. After a full half cup of tea's time, a crisp "kacha" sound was heard. It was like the sound of a copper lock being opened. The bone ball suddenly sped up. Waves of buzzing sounds could be heard. Moreover, this sound was very rhythmic. In another moment, the entire outer layer of the bone ball completely transformed into a layer of dark green light. Xiaohua's expression was very serious as he waved the soul strands and drove the bone ball to fly between Wang Bianfei's eyebrows. Xiaohua's eyes didn't blink as he stared closely at the bone ball. When the bone ball touched Wang Bianfei's eyebrows, the skin that came in contact with it was instantly dyed dark green. Xiaohua stopped and took a deep breath. He slightly composed himself before urging it again. When the outer layer of the bone ball easily entered, a happy expression appeared on Xiaohua's face. Although Xiaohua already knew about the soul technique used to control soul tools, this was the first time he was actually using it. Especially this kind of soul technique that didn't hurt people, Xiaohua couldn't help but be a little nervous. The soul bridge entered Wang Bianfei's mind. Without Xiaohua's control, it slowly moved inside. It didn't take long for it to arrive at the mysterious dark clouds. However, Wang Bianfei's mysterious dark clouds were much weaker than Xiaohua's. Not only were the heavenly patterns and earth deeds on the dark clouds not obvious, the dark clouds also flickered slightly as if they were breathing. When Xiaohua passed through the soul bridge and saw the entrance of the spiritual energy sky, a transparent restriction flashing with countless starlight, Xiaohua was stupefied. How is this possible? Wang Bianfei is only a child less than 10 years old. Who would seal him? Could it be that he has a background like this Xiao? But that's not right. Even if this Xiao has some background, this Xiao's spiritual energy sky doesn't have this layer of seal. Moreover, this layer of seal looks very strange. It actually uses star power. The cultivators in these 3 continents who can use star power. I'm afraid there are very few, right? Who would go against this child? Xiaohua stood under the seal, his face cloudy and uncertain. He really didn't expect that a disciple he casually accepted would have such a great background. It was no wonder that a child who was less than 10 years old could connect the dreamland with the ancient formation at the bottom of the Sage River and the illusory formation of the demonic spirit. If Xiaohua hadn't advanced to the nascent soul stage, he might have hesitated, but now his pride as a grandmaster made him unable to hesitate. Since he had accepted Wang Bianfei as his nominal disciple, this so-called nominal disciple was still a disciple. Xiaohua definitely wouldn't give up on Wang Bianfei just because he might have some hidden great enemy. In particular, after obtaining the demonic saber from the profound water palace, Xiaohua still hadn't carefully studied the demonic saber, and he didn't have any extra primordial spirit to refine the demonic saber. However, the demonic saber's demonic spirit was being devoured by Xiaohua. If possible, Xiaohua was prepared to take drastic measures like XN. He would control the demonic spirit himself and use it to refine the demonic saber. In this way, it would be 100 times easier than refining the demonic saber himself. Xiaohua even wanted to use the demonic spirit to cultivate the blood drop paradise and take control of his bloodline. With the demonic saber as his trump card, Xiaohua was confident that if he met an opponent at the spirit-severing stage or above, he would have the strength to fight. Thinking of this, Xiaohua stretched out his hand and touched that thin layer of seal with his finger. Boom! Like the afterimages of 10,000 stars, a scene of a primordial star shattering rushed towards Xiaohua's mind. Immediately after, a suffocating pressure smashed towards Xiaohua's finger from the seal. Hiss! Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless. He hastily retracted his finger, and the reaction on the seal disappeared. The afterimages of the 10,000 stars once again turned into specks of starlight on the seal. Xiaohua's mind returned to its original position under the protection of the soul strand. Xiaohua unconsciously frowned and pondered for a moment before waking Wang Bianfei up. He looked into Wang Bianfei's eyes and said word by word, "Wang Bianfei, Master has something to tell you." "Master, please speak." Wang Bianfei's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. He thought that Xiaohua was going back on his words because he couldn't sense the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Xiaohua very keenly felt Wang Bianfei's uneasiness and said with a smile, "Don't be nervous. What Master wants to say is that there's something strange in your body. It seems it's a kind of restriction placed on you by someone else. Master is going to break it. Although this restriction is powerful with Master strength, it should be easy to break it. However, I still have to tell you and ask for your consent." "Master, why is it like this?" Wang Bianfei was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Disciple grew up in a village. The furthest I went was Pingxi City. Disciple can't have offended anyone, right? Could it be Disciple rashly entered the illusion and offended the little monk's enemy? Saying this, Wang Bianfei's face showed regret. Xiaohua shook his head and said, "It should be different from what you think. However, Master doesn't know the specifics. I can only take one step at a time." "What if I don't break it?" Wang Bianfei blinked his eyes and asked. "If you don't break this restriction, your little life is in the hands of that person. That person can find you at any time." Xiaohua replied without the slightest hesitation. "Moreover, this layer of restriction seems to be blocking you from perceiving the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Of course, it only seems. Master can't be completely sure. I can only know after I break the restriction." "Mother." Hearing that the matter was so serious, Wang Bianfei hurriedly turned his head and wanted to call his mother to make a decision. "Hee, Wang Bianfei, now that you've grown up, it's also time for you to make your own decisions." Xiaohua waved his hand and said with a smile, "That day when you were in the Wang family, you handled everything decisively and nimbly. Why didn't you think too much when you were by your mother's side?" "Master," Wang Bianfei said embarrassedly, "Mother wasn't by my side, so Disciple naturally had to handle things by myself. However, with Mother by my side, all of Disciple's matters were handled by Mother. She only let Disciple paint. After a few times, Disciple got used to it. Last time in the Wang family, Disciple was anxious, so Disciple took the risk. You also know that when I came back, I was scolded by Mother." Xiaohua sighed slightly. That day, he had the thought of taking Wang Bianfei as his disciple, not only because of his intelligence, but also because of his filial piety and his decisiveness in handling matters. However, he didn't expect that he only saw one side of Wang Bianfei. He didn't see the side of Wang Bianfei that was doted on by his mother. Or perhaps, that was what Wang Bianfei didn't want to be seen in his dreams. Alas, sometimes, love is also a kind of burden. Xiaohua couldn't help but think of the silent Jianghu lure in the space. Immediately, his expression became serious and he asked, "Wang Bianfei, do you know what a cultivator is?" "I don't know." Wang Bianfei's face was slightly red, and he said in a low voice, "Disciple only heard this from the little monk. Although Disciple envied their carefree and magical abilities, Disciple didn't hear others mention the specifics." "Then, Master will tell you." Xiaohua nodded and said, "Simply speaking, the so-called cultivator is a cultivator who transcends mortals. In this world, there are the three sects of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, as well as a few other cultivation paths. Cultivators emphasize on cultivation and cultivation. No matter what kind of cultivation method it is completely different from the way you live. Not to mention the methods and strength you yearn for, even lifespan and feelings are also different. At this point, Xiaohua was somewhat at a loss for words. He didn't know how to talk about cultivation with a 10-year-old child like Wang Bianfei. Compared to Lu, Wang Bianfei's experience was still far behind. However, looking at Wang Bianfei's clear gaze, Xiaohua smiled. Although his own memory wasn't complete, he already vaguely knew his own origin. Since he was young, he wasn't as ignorant as Wang Bianfei, but didn't he also cultivate to such a realm? A person's fate was the most miraculous. Who could say that Wang Bianfei, a child who hadn't experienced wind and rain, couldn't grow into a towering tree? Master, what's the difference? Master, please teach me. Wang Bianfei saw that Xiaohua paused and asked very obediently. Xiaohua replied, "Oh, let's not talk about other things. Previously, you've also seen one or two of Master's methods. Master isn't afraid to tell you that it's nothing more than an ordinary person walking. Master still has many magical abilities that you can't even dream of." How about this? To put it simply, Master will ask you, how old do you think Master is? Chapter 3485. Master? Wang Bianfei looked at Xiaohua and said without any hesitation, Master looks like he's in his 20s, but disciple heard from the little monk that he's 300 years old. Master is much more powerful than him, so you're at least 500 years old, right? Damn. Xiaohua originally wanted to teach him a lesson, but he was immediately exposed, so he could only say embarrassedly, this little monk is bragging a bit, he's only around 200 years old. However, I'm afraid I'm about the same age as the little monk, probably around 200 years old. Really, Master? Wang Bianfei's eyes widened, you really can't tell. Hee, Master mentioned this to tell you, you're about to become a cultivator. Your age won't just be 500 years old, you might even be 5,000 or 50,000 years old. You have to always remember to be independent, even in front of your mother, you have to be independent. Yes, Master. Wang Bianfei was anxious and shouted, disciple understands, disciple will definitely change, disciple won't let mother care about disciple anymore, it doesn't matter. At this moment, Xiaohua had already understood, he smiled and waved his hand, you don't have to be so deliberate. Your mother taking care of everything for you is also a kind of love. She also watched you grow up day by day. She knows that you don't need her care more and more. She can keep this life, every day is a day of enjoyment. You don't have to force her to let go, just let her slowly adapt. What's more special is that your mother is immortal. There will come a day when her lifespan will run out. This period of time is extremely short in your life as a cultivator. Being able to enjoy a bit of familial love is also a bit of warmth. But Master? Wang Bianfei said anxiously, the little monk said that if you want to become a senior monk and become a person with great magical powers, you have to cut off your worldly ties, only then can you focus on Buddha. Don't listen to that little monk's nonsense. Xiaohua originally wanted to teach Wang Bianfei like this, but he changed his mind at this moment. We're Dao sect, yes. Fortune Gate's disciples, we control the fortune of the world, cutting off our worldly ties, shaving our heads and becoming a monk, that's a matter for monks. Besides, that little monk's heart misses his own brother, he doesn't have the qualifications to say anything about cutting off worldly ties. Yes, I understand. Wang Bianfei beamed with joy and probed, Master, you know Master Guzhen? I know. Xiaohua nodded. Master Guzhen will be going with me this time. What about Master Guzhen? I heard from the little monk that great Master Guzhen possesses remarkable abilities and is the #1 Buddhist expert. Wang Bianfei said. He was still concerned about the little monk Gunyan. Xiaohua smiled but didn't expose him. Grandmaster Guzhen is indeed formidable. This time, it was all thanks to him that Master and the others were able to escape. In the end, Master Guzhen met the little monk Gunyan. In order to accompany the little monk, Guzhen didn't come out of the illusion. Both of them were reborn as humans. Wang Yifei was shocked. Both of them are dead. Actually, this little monk isn't human. Xiaohua nodded. He did have a chance to survive, but just like his brother, he couldn't bear to, so he went with him. What a pitiful, adorable, and amiable little monk. Wang Bianfei's heart was somewhat heavy. Forget it, let's not talk about others. Xiaohua waved his hand. You rest for a while and discuss with your mother. It won't be too late to make a decision after that. No need to ask mother. Disciple will make the decision on cultivation. Wang Bianfei hurriedly said, Mother doesn't know how to cultivate. You'd better go and tell her. Xiaohua smiled and rubbed Wang Bianfei's head. After all, she is your mother who loves and dotes on you. If you suddenly become independent, your mother will be disappointed. Yes, disciple understands. Wang Bianfei smiled cutely. Disciple will tell mother that I will be back immediately. Okay, Xiaohua agreed. He folded his arms and looked at the clouds floating in the distant sky. His thoughts seemed to have run to Lu Town. Not long after, Wang Bianfei ran back cheerfully. Behind him, although his mother's figure was hidden in the shadow of the cave, Xiaohua could clearly see her worried expression. The disciple has finished talking to mother. Wang Bianfei ran to Xiaohua and shouted, Mother said that you will listen to me in the future. What are you eating? Xiaohua asked with a smile. It's the dates that master gave mother. Mother said that she couldn't finish them and left them for me to eat. Wang Bianfei replied with some embarrassment. Disciple knows that mother was reluctant and wanted to leave them for disciple. Disciple didn't want to eat them, but thinking about what master said just now, disciple still accepted them. Good. Xiaohua nodded. He knew that Wang Bianfei was intelligent. He only needed to mention a lot of things and he would understand. Then he pointed to the distant sky and said, You also come and look. Try to integrate yourself with the sky, or think that your mind is as big as the sky. No need, master. Wang Bianfei blinked his eyes and said, This is what disciple often played with when I was young. Xiaohua was somewhat stunned. He asked curiously, You often looked at the sky when you were young? Wang Bianfei nodded. When disciple was young, father often pointed to the sky and told disciple that the sky was the most difficult thing to draw in the world. What incomparably clear, what storm, what continuous rain, they were all carved in the sky. Disciple often looked at the sky when he had nothing to do. Especially later, father died. Disciple missed father very much, so disciple liked to look at the sky even more. When disciple saw the sky, it was as if disciple saw father's face. All troubles and pain would disappear. Genius has always been a coincidence. Xiaohua was speechless. He waved his hand and said with a bitter smile, Forget it, just pretend that master didn't say anything. Yes, master. Wang Bianfei went back to his original place and sat down cross-legged, saying, Master, you can do whatever you want. Disciple is already prepared. Good. Xiaohua saw that Wang Bianfei's expression was as solemn as an adult's. He nodded slightly and brought out his soul bridge. After communicating with Wang Bianfei's mysterious dark cloud, a green light flashed between Xiaohua's eyebrows. After that green light became dense, 2 thumb-sized green seal characters, Purify and Purify, appeared from the green light. Once these 2 green seal characters appeared, the entire mountain peak immediately lit up. Nearby, a bright green light appeared and enveloped the entire mountain peak. Xiaohua didn't have time to carefully observe the change in the sky. He urged the 2 green seal characters to enter between Wang Bianfei's eyebrows. The 2 green seal characters smoothly passed through the soul bridge and entered the mysterious dark cloud. When the 2 green seal characters disappeared, the entire mountain peak seemed to follow them and rush towards Wang Bianfei's eyebrows. Some of the green light disappeared into Wang Bianfei's body, but many gathered around Wang Bianfei's head. Looking inside the mysterious dark cloud, the 2 green seal characters emitted the sound of flowing water. Hua hua, they slowly turned into hundreds of even smaller green seal characters. Then, near the restriction, there was a loud sound of purify and purify. Those tiny green seal characters seemed to be washing over the restriction. Swoosh swoosh. The green seal script, which was even more powerful than a waterfall, flew upwards and landed on the restriction. The restriction instantly loosened and turned into the 10,000 stars that Xiaohua had seen before, which flew towards the green seal script. Rumble. A series of muffled sounds rang out. Wang Bianfei's head violently trembled, even his entire body was shaking. Hold on. Xiaohua hurriedly supported Wang Bianfei's shoulder with one hand and pressed Wang Bianfei down. Wang Bianfei was originally panicking, but when Xiaohua's hand fell, his expression immediately relaxed. Woo! At this moment, the entire mountain peak's wind and clouds changed. The originally clear sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds. Xiaohua broke Wang Bianfei's restriction and actually caused a change in the sky. Good. This Xiao wants to see what kind of expert is coming. Xiaohua also steeled his heart. The green light between his eyebrows reappeared and another 2 green seal characters fell between Wang Bianfei's eyebrows. Boom! Like the opening of the sky, a large hole appeared in the dark clouds that had just gathered. Inside the hole in the clouds, there was a dark blue starry sky. A faint starlight fell from the hole in the clouds and landed on the top of Wang Bianfei's head. Star Force? It really is Star Force. Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed. He took the time to open his transcendence vision and looked at the invisible light pillar that seemed to reach the sky. Inside the light pillar, fluorescent light danced, and a kind of desolate aura wreaked havoc in this fluorescent light. Rumble! Another strong wave of shaking. Wang Bianfei's head was somewhat crooked as if it had been hit by a heavy hammer. A trace of blood even flowed out from his nostrils. Master? Wang Bianfei didn't dare to open his eyes. He reached out and used his small hand to grab Xiaohua's hand that was placed on his shoulder. Don't worry, disciple. Xiaohua had a card up his sleeve and said indifferently, "It will be done very soon." As he spoke, Xiaohua raised his head and looked at the source of the starlight. There was no strange movement. Only then did he relax. Green light flashed between his eyebrows. The cleansing heaven purifying earth technique was used again. Several green seal characters attracted even more green light to fall between Wang Bianfei's eyebrows. Not only did it cover up the starlight, it also made Wang Bianfei's face show a kind of flirtatious green color. Looking at the layer of restriction inside Wang Bianfei's mysterious dark cloud, Xiaohua didn't use all his strength to break it. Because of the replenishment of the starlight, countless starlight poured in and turned into stars that attacked the green seal characters that were like dancing butterflies. That seemingly weak restriction actually showed a vast aura. However, when Xiaohua went all out, even more green seal characters rushed into the seal. The flying green seal characters immediately transformed into jade-green giants. Each of the giants had the power to crush stars with their palms. With a raise of their hands, countless stars were reduced to dust. The stars were shattered and there was no star force to replenish them. It looked like this restriction was about to be broken. Rumble! At the final crucial moment, the light and shadow in the starry sky changed greatly. Amidst the stellar transposition, the powerful starlight was like a heavenly river that suddenly poured out and rushed into the light pillar. Chapter 3486. Not good. Xiaohua was very sensitive to the power of the starlight. He knew that once the starlight fell, Wang Bianfei's seal would definitely frantically counterattack and even recover in an instant. Everything he did before would be in vain. In a hurry, Xiaohua really didn't know how to deal with the starlight. He unconsciously frowned and said, "This? What should we do?" Suddenly, as if the pain was unbearable, Wang Bianfei's right hand, which was holding Xiaohua, began to tremble. The joints of her small hand turned white, and more blood flowed out from Wang Bianfei's nostrils and ears. Kill! Xiaohua clenched his teeth and steeled his heart. Black qi flourished from his left arm and he immediately raised his left hand. That originally white left hand instantly turned into a pitch-black demonic blade. Swish! Along with a wave of the demonic blade, a pitch-black demonic chi flashed and the entire starlight was split into two. Moreover, the dense demonic chi turned into tiny demons that bared their fangs and brandished their claws and devoured the starlight. At the same time, the originally dense starlight became even denser. The starlight was like a heavy star that smashed the tiny demons into pieces. Cleanse, purify, Xiao Hua waved the demonic blade. The demonic chi in his body was swept clean and he could no longer control the demonic blade. His left arm powerlessly hung down. Taking advantage of the gap where the demonic chi blocked the starlight, Xiao Hua once again used the cleansing heaven purifying earth technique. Even more green seal characters fell between Wang Bianfei's eyebrows, like a muffled sound of a thunderclap in a clear sky, but also like a clap of thunder tearing apart the heavy clouds. The jade light on Wang Bianfei's head dispersed. The seal within the mysterious dark clouds was finally swept clean by Xiao Hua's cleansing heaven purifying earth technique, and the starlight falling from the starry sky immediately disappeared without a trace. Even the cloud hole high in the sky also disappeared in an instant. Sigh, I finally succeeded. Xiao Hua's eyebrows also produced a kind of indescribable soreness. Then, a pain comparable to his head splitting emerged from his mysterious dark clouds. Hiss! However, before Xiao Hua could take a breath of cold air, a layer of multicolored light suddenly appeared in the sky where the clouds and stars had stopped. This multicolored light was like a heavenly flower, but also like a rainbow. It covered the entire horizon. Then this multicolored light poured down like a waterfall. Bursts of lightning and thunder were born. The sky that was clear a moment ago was densely covered by red clouds and actually snowflakes. What kind of celestial phenomenon is this? Xiao Hua turned pale in fright. Is the origin of the seal on Wang Bianfei's body is really extraordinary? Rumble. Just as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled high up in the sky, within Xiao Hua's Naiwen Palace, within the Buddha relic that was hidden within the Linglong Pagoda and was unaffected by the outside world, a thunderous sound similarly rang out. This. Xiao Hua was even more alarmed. He hastily sent his mind into his Naiwen Palace. He saw the Buddha Saraira that came out of the exquisite pagoda flickering with a similar brilliance. This brilliance was different from the Buddha aura. It emitted a kind of holy milky white light. This brilliance was like a river that slowly flowed into the Buddha Saraira's heart. At the heart, the Buddha fire began to sway like a heartbeat. The golden threads inside became increasingly exuberant. Unfortunately, even if it was Jade Archive Xiao Hua now, he could only see a faint milky white brilliance emerging from the void. It slowly flowed into the Buddha Saraira's heart like a dense fog. He was absolutely unable to see the golden threads inside the Buddha fire. Just like how Xiao Hua didn't know what it meant when he broke the seal on Wang Bianfei's spiritual aura sky. He also didn't know what the 10 colors that filled the sky were. Perhaps not long after, Xiao Hua would realize that he broke the seal and opened a new chapter of hidden immortal continent, Western Paradise, and Xiaoyu Continent's Taoist sect's spiritual root cultivation. Perhaps Xiao Hua would obtain a lot of merit and faith power because of this. But he could only wait for a very, very, very long time, until he cultivated to a height that he couldn't reach even in his dreams. Only then would he truly understand what he had uncovered. At this moment, Xiao Hua couldn't see this inexplicable scene. When his mind came out of his Naiwen Palace, he saw Wang Bianfei's complexion turning yellow. He had actually fainted on his arm. The remaining bloodstains covered his ears, lips, and his clothes were also stained quite a bit. Sigh. This Xiao was a bit impetuous. Xiao Hua was a bit regretful in his heart. He reached out his hand to touch Wang Bianfei's forehead. However, when his finger touched Wang Bianfei's skin, he stopped. He knew that if he forcefully woke Wang Bianfei up, it wouldn't be good for Wang Bianfei to wake up on his own. Thus, he simply pulled his hand back and used his hand to grab some water stains. He carefully washed Wang Bianfei's face and other places. While washing, Xiao Hua's hand very naturally touched Wang Bianfei's hair. That hair actually floated down along with Xiao Hua's hand. Xiao Hua let out a sound and used his hand to pull. Wang Bianfei's hair all fell down without a single strand remaining. Moreover, there was actually a layer of purple sticky substance on his scalp. The corner of Xiao Hua's mouth curled up. He wiped away the floating hair and sticky substance. Then he carried Wang Bianfei's slightly light body and walked towards the cave. Wang Bianfei slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When he woke up, it was already noon. You and this Xiao can be considered to be of the same generation. This concubine doesn't dare. Wang Bianfei's mother replied in panic. Xiao Hua helplessly glared at Wang Bianfei. Wang Bianfei mischievously stuck out his tongue as an answer. Forget it, this Xiao will call you Wang Shi. Xiao Hua understood Wang Bianfei's mother's meaning and said while waving his hand. Speaking until here, Xiao Hua woke up again and hurriedly said, "That's right, this one's surname is Xiao. I had told sister-in-law in my dream before. This Xiao had neglected it." Xiao Si had mentioned the great master's surname before. However, if the great master didn't mention it, this concubine didn't dare to mention it. After all, monks don't talk about mortal matters. Wang Bianfei's mother hurriedly replied, "However, great master, where did the Wang Shi that you mentioned come from?" Xiao Hua stared blankly for a moment before smiling and waving his hand. "Sister-in-law, you are wrong. This Xiao is not a monk and Bianfei will not be a monk in the future. If he were to dual cultivate and find a fairy, it is absolutely possible. As for calling sister-in-law Wang Shi, it is because this one doesn't know sister-in-law's name. However, since Bianfei's father is surnamed Wang, sister-in-law can also be called Wang Shi." "Really?" Obviously, Wang Bianfei didn't say these words to his mother. Hearing this, Wang Bianfei's mother was overjoyed. The worry that had been in her stomach for several days had already been thrown away. As for why she was called Wang Shi, she didn't really care. Of course, Xiao Hua nodded. This one is a cultivator of the Tao sect, not a monk. Sister-in-law doesn't need to call this one master. If you can call me Immortal Master or Old Master. Chapter 3487. Yes, master, this concubine understands. Wang Bianfei's mother was very satisfied and very casually called out. When Xiao Hua heard this master, he couldn't help but think of the fat body of the Wang family's master. He smacked his lips, wanting to go back on his words. But when he thought of Lu Yi and the black bear spirit calling him master, if he said anything else, wouldn't Wang Bianfei and his mother also have to call them master in the future? Forget it. Wang Shi, Xiao Hua simply said, "Do you know the name of the land under your feet?" Wang Shi was stunned and didn't react for a long time. Looking at Wang Bianfei, she was somewhat hesitant, not understanding what Xiao Hua was asking. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and simply asked, "Do you know the name of the big river next to you?" "Buddha River?" Wang Shi finally spoke. "That Buddha River. On which continent?" Xiao Hua asked again. "Continent? What is a continent?" Wang Shi seemed to have fallen into the clouds. Xiao Hua looked at Wang Bianfei and smiled. "Bianfei, have you heard the little monk mention it before?" Wang Bianfei was also at a loss. How about this? This Xiao wants to bring all of you to a place where this Xiao's other disciples are. However, all of you can't say that you live by the Buddha River. Also, all of you can't say that you've seen many monks." Xiao Hua thought for a moment before instructing. Wang Shi nodded. "This concubine understands. Actually, this concubine has never seen many monks. As for this Buddha River, this concubine will say that it is a big river. There are also many big rivers left and right." Good. Xiao Hua already understood in his heart, this Wang Shi should be the same as Wang Bianfei. The furthest they went was some Pingxi city. In their hearts, they didn't have the concept of pure land and hidden immortal continent, even. Their village was really remote, even the temples were rarely seen. It was no different from hidden immortal continent. The only thing that Xiao Hua was worried about was this Saint River. Whether it was the Buddha River or the Saint River, this name would make people associate it with paradise. Wang Bianfei's origin was nothing to Lu Yi and the others, but Xiao Hua faintly felt that his Buddha Saraira, his identity as the future Buddha Lord, and even the Buddha fruit of Guan Yin Bodhisattva should be separated from his identity as the successor of the Dao sect. It was best to hide the fact that he came to the Western paradise through the space vein. Therefore, Xiaohua initially did not plan to bring Wang Bianfei back to the hidden Immortal continent. However, after thinking about it, Wang Bianfei and his mother were orphans and widows. Although they were not eye-catching in the Western paradise, Wang Bianfei had cultivated Dao techniques after all. If something happened to him, wouldn't it be his fault? Finally, Xiaohua decided to bring them back to the hidden Immortal continent. However, after instructing Wang Bianfei and Wang Shi for a while, Xiaohua felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't remember what it was. All right, Bianfei, Wang Shi, this Xiao will bring you along. However, during this period, you have to have a good sleep. When you wake up, you will go to a new place. There, you don't have to worry about being bullied by others. Moreover, Bianfei, you will also have senior brothers to cultivate with. Xiaohua first asked Wang Shi about the direction of Pingxi City, then said to Wang Bianfei and Wang Shi, "Thank you, master." When Wang Shi heard that Xiaohua only had 3 days, she was also worried. After marrying to this village, she had never left. She really didn't know how to live after leaving her hometown. Now that she heard that Xiaohua was going to bring them along, she was so happy that she almost knelt down and kowtowed. "Ayo." Hearing Wang Shi's grateful voice, Xiaohua suddenly understood that he had overlooked a point. That was, the language of the Western paradise was completely different from the language of the hidden Immortal continent. When Wang Bianfei and Wang Shi arrived at the hidden Immortal continent, as long as they opened their mouth, they would definitely be exposed. However, if Wang Bianfei and Wang Shi were to start learning the language of the hidden Immortal continent now, Xiaohua felt that he wouldn't have such good patience. Moreover, he also didn't know how long it would take for Wang Shi to learn it. He couldn't possibly waste his time here. Forget it. When we arrive at the Black Wind Ridge, let Lu Yi teach them. Xiaohua sighed slightly. Doing anything in this world was absolutely not easy. Wanting to conceal anything was even more difficult. Immediately, Xiaohua took out 2 fasting pills and handed them to the 2 people respectively, letting them consume it. With a wave of his hand, he sealed the 2 people's acupoints and sent them to a place in the space. Then, he rode on a cloud and flew towards Pingxi City. Xiaohua's plan was extremely good, but he still neglected one thing, and that was Wang Bianfei's abnormal ability. In the space, Wang Bianfei was originally sleeping well. However, all of a sudden, his eyes rapidly moved. The breathing from his mouth and nose gradually became somewhat rhythmic. Even his hands, which were casually placed, gradually began to form seals. This was the Qi refining stage level 1 technique. Not long after, the spiritual light that was like sunlight gradually gathered around his body. Wang Bianfei's cultivation in his dream might not count as anything, but the problem was that in Xiaohua's space, there was still the silent Jianghu. Jianghu's eyes had been moving day and night for more than 100 years. What kind of story would happen when the 2 people were in the same place? This time, Xiaohua didn't fly in the wrong direction. After only half a day, he arrived at Pingxi City. As a bald little monk, Xiaohua received a rare respect in Pingxi City. Not only were there people attentively giving alms, there were also kind benefactors who took the initiative to bring Xiaohua to the east of the city to look for the not-too-famous Jietai Temple. However, when he arrived at Jietai Temple, Xiaohua was in a bit of a predicament. The reception monk at the gate wanted to see Xiaohua's identity certificate, but where did Xiaohua have it? The reception monk's face was indifferent, even colder than the people of the secular world. He waved his hand and only said that without an identity certificate, he wasn't allowed to stay on the list, and he wasn't allowed to eat vegetarian food. If he wanted to eat, he could only go outside to beg for alms. Xiaohua smiled. He smiled very happily. He really liked this reception monk who was straightforward enough. Only with this kind of person could the Taoist sect flourish. He couldn't wait to have more of this kind of people. Therefore, he didn't blame the reception monk and only said that he didn't need to stay on the list. He only needed to find their abbot and ask him something before leaving. It would have been better if Xiaohua didn't say anything. Once he said that he wanted to see the abbot, The reception monk's face immediately showed a mocking smile. He asked Xiaohua if he had an appointment with the abbot, and if he had any Buddhist identity certificate that other people brought. After all, how could the head of a temple be met so easily? In particular, the reception monk casually asked Xiaohua if he knew the Dharma name of the abbot of Jietai Temple. Xiaohua was even more speechless. Even if he brought out Ci Hui, the reception monk still waved his monk robe, indicating that he wanted to see the guest out. If it wasn't for the fact that Xiaohua was also bald, perhaps he would have directly swept Xiaohua out with a broom. Helpless, Xiaohua could only release his Buddhist awareness, attracting the abbot of Jietai Temple, Xen Chan, to come out and very politely invite Xiaohua into the temple. Under the reception monk's unsightly black face, Xiaohua leisurely followed Xen Chan into the temple. However, just when the reception monk was extremely worried that he would be punished by the abbot, Xiaohua once again flew out of Jietai Temple on a magic cloud under the guidance of a young monk. Xiaohua really did ask one thing and then left. The reception monk didn't lie at all. This flight took several days. On this day, it was dusk again. A very wide river appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes. That river flowed under a cliff. On the side of that cliff, there was a very dilapidated ancient temple. There were many dark green ancient trees planted at the two ends of the ancient temple. At first glance, these ancient trees carried a thick shadow in the dusk. The entire ancient temple looked like a bat spreading its wings. Just as he saw the ancient temple, the monk leading the way stopped. He put his palms together and said, "Amitba. Junior brother Tipu, this is Jinshan Temple. The river under Jinshan Temple is called Qin River. This is also what I told you along the way. At the end of Qin River is Saint River. Jinshan Temple's great Zen master Ji Kong's temper is rather strange. Last time I came with my master to visit him, he didn't see us at all. This made my master lose face. Therefore, I won't accompany junior brother down. Junior brother, if you have any matters, cough cough, you must be prepared. Many thanks, senior brother Liao." Xiaohua also put his palms together and thanked him. Liao Ming waved his hand and said, "No need to thank me, no need to thank me. Junior brother discussed Buddhism with me along the way and it really benefited me greatly. Back then, when martial uncle Ci Hui came to visit martial ancestor, I once listened from the side." The harvest of these few days is no less than that time. That's right, senior brother Liao Ming, Ci Hui, is there any news? Xiaohua held back from asking along the way. At this moment he finally asked again. Liao Ming was puzzled. What news does martial uncle Ci Hui have? This. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, I also don't know. I haven't seen Ci Hui since I parted ways with him. Also, I want to ask again. If there is a senior in the Pure Land who has attained Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, how would we know? Attaining Bodhisattva Buddha fruit? Junior brother isn't joking, right? As far as I know, our Pure Land hasn't had a Buddha attaining Bodhisattva Buddha fruit for several tens of thousands of years. Oh, that's right. A few days ago in Xiaoyu continent, I heard that martial uncle Ci Hang almost attained Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. Liao Ming said with a smile. Cough cough. I mean that there is a person attaining Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. How would we know? Xiaohua coughed and asked. When a Bodhisattva attains Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, 10,000 monks congratulate him. If there is a Bodhisattva attaining Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, there will definitely be a Buddhist bell ringing 64 times and the entire Pure Land will rejoice. Liao Ming said with a smile. Then, this Bodhisattva's Buddha seat will appear in Leiyin Temple. Then, Leiyin Temple will send out a small envoy to receive him. At the same time, it will emit Buddha's light to illuminate the entire Pure Land. Junior brother Tipu, don't tell me you don't even know this? Dong dong dong. Just as Liao Ming looked at Xiaohua with a smile, the Buddhist bell of Jinshan Temple in the distance suddenly rang. At the same time, even further away, the Buddhist bells of even more temples rang at the same time, one after another, one after another. Liao Ming was dumbfounded. He looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and then at Jinshan Temple. After the 64 Buddhist bells rang, The entire Pure Land suddenly emitted a myriad of Buddha's light. It was as if the rising sun was shining on the earth and splashing in all directions. His gaze moved away from the lingering Buddhist light in the sky and looked at the Jinshan temple that was sent flying by the bat. He thought to himself, I really have a lot of burdens. Today, I'll quickly settle the matter of Jianghu's death. Because he had a favor to ask of the Jinshan temple, Xiaohua didn't dare to be too rash. He didn't release his Buddhist sense and flew above the Chen River. After a brief glance, he landed on the riverside. Then, he came out of the river and washed his hands and face. He looked around and looked at the steps from the riverside to the gate of the Jinshan temple. Putting his palms together, he walked step by step from the foot of the mountain to the gate of the Jinshan temple. Looking from midair, the Jinshan temple wasn't very high. But when he really walked, it still took Xiaohua nearly the time it took to eat a meal. Seeing the gate of the Jinshan temple in front of him, Xiaohua frowned. Because when he walked from the riverside to here, he didn't use his Buddhist sense. Moreover, although it was already dark, it wasn't night yet. The gate of the Jinshan temple was still closed. In particular, just now, the Buddhist bell of the Jinshan temple rang 64 times. Everyone in the Jietai temple knew that there would be a ceremony to celebrate in the temple. Although the Jinshan temple was smaller than the Jietai temple, the abbot of the Jinshan temple was great Zen master Jimya. His seniority was much higher than that of the Jietai temple's Xen Chan. How could the Jinshan temple not celebrate? What if there was no ceremony? Xiaohua frowned and pondered. He had already arrived in front of the gate of the Jinshan temple. The gate of the Jinshan temple wasn't bright and couldn't be compared with that of the Jietai temple. But it definitely wasn't shabby. It seemed that the incense was good. Looking at the bronze door knocker that didn't move in the wind, Xiaohua raised his hand and was about to slap it. At this time, Xiaohua suddenly smelled a pungent wine fragrance. Within the wine fragrance was a very tempting mellow fragrance. Xiaohua was absolutely familiar with this fragrance, but he hadn't smelled it for a long time. It was the ordinary fragrance of meat in the mortal world. Xiaohua wryly smiled. His hand immediately froze in the air. Creak! The gate of the Jinshan temple opened, revealing a small gap. A tall and fat monk with a lotus leaf pouch in one hand and a wine jar under his other arm opened the door while looking back. He was tiptoeing out of the temple. Xiaohua saw this and was about to speak. The fat monk just happened to turn his head and saw Xiaohua's hand. He unconsciously screamed, "Ah!" It seemed that he was scared. The lotus leaf pouch and wine jar in his hand immediately fell down. Seeing that the wine jar was about to shatter and the meat in the lotus leaf pouch fell into the dust, Xiaohua helplessly waved his hand and the two landed smoothly on the ground. "Little monk, you want to scare me to death. Do you not want to live anymore?" At this time, the fat monk Jiao regained his wits and immediately became furious. He raised his alms bowl-sized fist and smashed it towards Xiaohua's nose. "Amit ba." Xiaohua extended a finger and pointed it at Monk Jiao's fist. Monk Jiao immediately felt as if he was struck by lightning. All the fat on his body was rapidly trembling. Monk Jiao's eyes were filled with horror. He hurriedly kneeled on the ground and cried, "Grandpa, spare me, get up." Xiaohua coldly shouted, "This little monk is Tipu. Today I came to see great Zen Master Nirvana." "Greetings, junior brother, martial uncle." Monk Jiao hurriedly got up from the ground and clasped his hands together. "This little monk Mingxin greets martial uncle." Xiaohua nodded. "Why aren't you going to help this little monk inform him?" This Mingxin opened his mouth and wanted to say something. However, he saw Xiaohua slightly lowering his head to look at the wine jar and lotus leaf bag on the ground. How could he dare to talk back? He whispered, "Martial uncle, please wait a moment. This little monk will immediately help you inform him." Saying this, he revealed a charming smile and lowered his head to grab the wine jar and lotus leaf bag. He quickly ran past Xiaohua's side and rushed into the forest next to the temple. Not long after, he hurriedly ran back and rushed into the Jinshan temple. When he ran past Xiaohua, he didn't forget to whisper, "Martial uncle, please wait a moment. This little monk will immediately return." Sure enough, not long after Mingxin entered the temple, an old monk came over with a lantern in his hand. This old monk's eyes were muddy. He was clearly not a senior monk who specialized in Buddhist arts. The old monk walked in front of the temple door and opened it. He looked at Xiaohua, who was respectfully standing at the door, and asked, "Little monk, you are called Tipu?" "Yes, this little monk is called Tipu. I came to visit great Zen master Nirvana." Xiaohua clasped his hands together and didn't dare to be negligent. "Amitba, this old monk is Yong Zhong." As soon as the old monk opened his mouth, Xiaohua was startled. This Yong character's seniority was really high. He didn't even know how to address him. "Hee, you can just call this old monk martial uncle." The old monk Yong Zhong seemed to like this kind of surprise very much. He smiled and said, "Did you come to the Jinshan temple for a visit?" Xiaohua once again bitterly smiled. Although this Yong Zhong was not as old as the old monk of the exquisite temple, his ears were just as bad. He could only say again, "Okay, martial uncle knows. This little monk came to visit great Zen master." "Oh, you haven't eaten yet. Come, little monk, come with this old monk. Ming Shen and the others have just eaten. There is still some left in the vegetarian restaurant." In front of the altar, a dozen monks of different ages were sitting cross-legged in an uneven manner. These monks were sitting crookedly, and each of them looked listless. A slightly hoarse voice shouted, "Martial ancestor, martial ancestor." Following this voice, Miao Chen pushed the door and rushed in. Xiaohua did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly got up. The old monk glanced at Miao Chen and asked curiously, "Miao Chen, didn't you go to the evening class? Why did you come to this old monk's place?" "Martial uncle, I am Miao Fa." Miao Fa, who looked exactly the same as Miao Chen, plopped down on the praying mat that Xiaohua was sitting on before. He grinned, then pointed at the praying mat not far away and said to Xiaohua, "Little monk, go over there and sit." "Oh, Miao Fa, now is the time for the evening class. Why didn't you go to the temple for the evening class? Why did you come to this old monk's place?" the old monk asked in a low voice. Xiaohua looked at this seemingly reckless monk and did not say anything. He walked to the praying mat not far away and sat down, looking at the two with a smile. That monk by the name of Miao Chen ignored Xiaohua. He was in a hurry, moreover, with a mysterious expression. He lowered his voice and asked urgently, "Grandmaster, that bodhisattva who achieved fruition just now, which temple is he from?" "Attained enlightenment?" Although the old monk Yong Zhong was hard of hearing, he heard the two words, "attained enlightenment," clearly. His wrinkled face immediately showed bitterness, and he shook his head. "How would this old monk know?" "Martial uncle, the entire Pure Land is boiling. The Buddhist bell in every temple has rung 64 times. This disciple heard it on the way, so I hurriedly rushed back. How could you send this disciple away with just a few words?" Miao Chen was somewhat anxious. "Miao Chen, if you want to know, you can ask the abbot." The Buddhist edict of Leiyin Temple was received by the abbot. The old monk Yong Zhong said with a smile. The abbot was preaching in the main hall. When he heard the Buddhist bell ringing in the temple, his face changed greatly. Before the 64 bell rings ended, he stood up and walked to the front of the main hall without saying a word. This little monk came in a hurry and didn't bring any letters. Strange. Miao Chen was very puzzled. He looked up and down at Xiaohua and said, "This little monk Si Hui, this poor monk has seen him before. Abbot also admires him." That year, the two of them debated Buddhism for several days. "He also has a good understanding of my abbot. He should know that my abbot is most afraid of people mentioning great Zen master. How could he recommend you to Jinshan Temple?" The one who recommended Xiaohua to Jinshan Temple was naturally Great Snow Mountain's Master Qin Qin. However, Master Qingchen had already passed away. Moreover, Master Qingchen's death was greatly related to the West Sea Eye. Even if you beat Xiaohua to death, Xiaohua wouldn't mention it. Strange, Great Zen Master Jimia's Dharma name is Great Zen Master Jimia. Why is it taboo to talk about Great Zen Master Jimia? Xiaohua intentionally or unintentionally led the topic to Great Zen Master Jimia. Miao Chen shrugged and replied, "This poor monk doesn't know. If junior brother wants to ask, you can ask martial ancestor Yong Zhong." It's a long story. The old monk Yong Zhong shook his head slightly. He picked up the teacup and sipped it. After a while, he said, "Little monk, if you want to know more about Great Zen Master Jimia, you should call C.I. Hui over. Perhaps Abbot and C.I. Hui can talk about it." Unfortunately, Xiaohua looked at the two and said with a bitter smile, "I'm afraid that C.I. Hui has already arrived at Leiyin Temple. If this little monk wants to find him, it will be difficult." Leiyin Temple? Why did C.I. Hui go to Leiyin Temple? Miao Chen was very puzzled. However, he poured another cup of tea and swallowed it in one gulp. He looked at Xiaohua and asked, "Let's wait for 2 more days and see how the situation is." However, things were beyond Xiaohua's expectations. For 3 consecutive days, he didn't see the shadow of Great Zen Master Nirvana at all. The monks in the entire temple were trembling with fear. All of them were absent-minded and panicked. They seemed to be slacking in their morning and evening classes. Except for the old monk Yong Zhong who came to see Xiaohua from time to time, the others didn't seem to know that a lone monk had come to the temple. This kind of mood was contagious. Even the good men and women who came to the temple to offer incense and alms could feel it. After kowtowing and burning incense, they hurriedly left, not daring to stay in the Jinshan temple for a moment longer. Xiaohua now knew where Great Zen Master Nirvana's meditation room was. The door of the meditation room was tightly shut. Xiaohua wanted to go up and knock on the door several times, or use his Buddhist sense to explore, but he restrained himself. On the 5th day, before dawn, Xiaohua, who was sitting cross-legged in meditation, heard a clamor outside the door. When Xiaohua opened the door, he saw the monks of the Jinshan temple. They were all wearing thin monk robes and holding huge buckets with sharp bottoms. These monks were lined up with solemn faces. One by one, they ran through the corridor, across the open space in front of the main hall, and out of the temple gate. After a long time, these monks raised their hands flat. The huge buckets were filled with river water. They quickly returned and lined up to the back mountain of the Jinshan temple. The back mountain was a large vegetable field. These monks ran to the vegetable field and stopped in front of it. At the entrance of the vegetable field stood an old monk who, although tall, was extremely skinny, almost like a bag of bones. The old monk held a monk's staff in his hand. It was as thick as a duck's egg and several feet long. How can someone like you, who is chanting Buddhist scriptures with your naked eyes, be worthy of talking about nirvana? You should obediently go back and properly chant Buddhist scriptures. It won't be too late to come to my Jinshan temple after you understand 1 or 2 things. Xiaohua was angry. His expression changed and said, "This little monk originally heard that Jinshan temple's great Zen master Jimia's Buddhist teachings were profound and his Buddhist techniques were divine. That's why this little monk came from afar to ask for guidance. But I didn't expect that great Zen master was actually like this. This little monk is truly disappointed. Little monk, what do you think a great Zen master should be like? Is it amiable? Or is it approachable? Is it open-minded like a valley? Or is it open-minded like the world?" Great Zen master Jimia laughed loudly. "So what if this old monk punished these disciples? They are bitterly burdened by their own bodies. They are unable to cleanse their minds and wholeheartedly follow Buddha. They have always been worried about their lives. This old monk only wanted to let them know that everything in this world is a burden. This old monk's punishment is a burden. This old monk's reward is also a burden. Watering the ground is tiring, carrying water is also tiring. Only by attaining fruit and engraving the name of Buddha in Lei Temple can they be free. The so-called Bodhi tree originally has no tree, the mirror also has no platform. Originally there was nothing, where did the dust come from? Xiaohua sneered, but cultivation is not necessarily restricted to form. Perhaps it is wine and meat in the mouth, but there is no Buddha in the heart. Or perhaps it is saying Amitabha Buddha while holding a blood blade in the hand. Great Zen Master, which one is following Buddha? This little monk really didn't expect that Great Zen Master would actually fall into such a low position. You can only have your body like a Bodhi tree, your heart like a mirror, constantly wiping it and not letting the dust come from it. Insolent little monk. Great Zen Master Jimya was somewhat embarrassed and angry. I don't know where you learned a few words of debate from, but you came to debate Buddhist teachings with this old monk. Just what are your intentions? If you want to become famous at such a young age, you have come to the wrong place. Chapter 3492. Haha. Great Zen Master Nirvana raised his head and laughed heartily. He shook his body and the golden Buddha statue slowly entered his body. The red lotus karmic fire above Chin River also disappeared into the void. He then looked at Chin River and said in a clear voice, "Little monk, don't tell me you're not trying to provoke me." Unfortunately, this old monk has seen this kind of trick many times. I won't let you do it again. This old monk has already given you a lot of face in today's battle. Since you're already famous, you can go now. Don't bother this old monk again. If you do, don't blame this old monk for being impolite. Then, Great Zen Master Nirvana no longer looked at Chin River. He turned around and flew into Jinshan Temple. Damn it. Xiaohua put away the 9 Dragons staff and Transcendence golden body. He used the water escape technique and flew out from the upper reaches of the Chin River. He landed on a mountain rock and cursed in his heart. He was at his wits' end again. His plan was clearly seen through by Great Zen Master Nirvana. Moreover, he had offended him a lot with his words. Not to mention the difference in age, it was impossible for them to become friends without fighting. Even if he wanted to see him again, he wouldn't be willing. How could he ask him for help? There are really all kinds of people in this day and age. Xiaohua scratched his bald head. At this time, hair was gradually growing on top of his head. It was quite itchy. How can such an uncultured monk achieve fruition? If he can achieve fruition, then the Buddhist sect is really blind. Amitabha, Buddha, this little monk didn't mean to say that. Kacha! All of a sudden, heavenly thunder exploded above the Chen River. The sky, which was already somewhat gloomy, was now even darker. Bolts of heavenly thunder came without warning, and thunderbolts began to strike nearby. It's raining, put away the clothes. Xiaohua said weakly. The rain gradually became heavier and the sky became darker. Xiaohua stood up and slowly walked in the rain. He went against Chin River. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. For example, should he change his appearance and meet Great Zen Master Nirvana again? Should he wait for a period of time and wait for Great Zen Master Nirvana to be in a good mood? However, all these thoughts turned into ashes when they met Great Zen Master Nirvana's strange temper. Hey, isn't this the wine-meat monk called Mingxin? While walking, Xiaohua saw a small cave in the distance. Unexpectedly, there was a trace of fiery light in the midst of the boundless rain. Xiaohua swept out with his Buddha sense and immediately saw it. However, when he saw everything inside, he really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mingxin carefully used his body to block the entrance of the cave. He was roasting a rabbit over a fire. This monk. Xiaohua slightly shakes his head. He really doesn't learn from his mistakes. He was just warned by his own abbot, and now he's hiding out to eat meat. He's really a weirdo. Mingxin. Xiaohua roared. Mingxin was so frightened that he threw the rabbit in his hand into the fire. Before he could even turn his head, he hastily knelt on the ground and cried out, "Martial ancestor, spare my life. Martial ancestor, spare my life." "Hee hee," Xiaohua sneered. "You were just beaten by the great Zen master and now you dare to eat meat? You really don't want to live anymore." Hearing that it wasn't his own abbot's voice, Mingxin gathered his courage and secretly took a look. Seeing that it was actually Xiaohua, his body trembled even more. He cried out, "Martial ancestor, so it was you? Please spare this disciple." This disciple was just greedy for good food, there was really no other way. "Get up," Xiaohua said with a smile. "This poor monk doesn't get along with your abbot, how could I possibly tell him about this matter?" That's right. Martial ancestor's righteous words today really make this disciple admire you." Mingxin got up and hastily picked up the rabbit that fell into the ashes. He hurriedly blew the dust with his mouth and flattered, "Martial ancestor doesn't know. In the entire Jinshan temple, there are a total of 62 disciples. Who would dare to talk back to the abbot like martial ancestor? Moreover, martial ancestor's magical power is great, you can actually fight with the abbot for so long. To tell martial ancestor the truth, this disciple has never seen anyone provoke the abbot to use the red lotus karmic fire. It's not that this disciple is flattering martial ancestor, but all the monks who come to my Jinshan temple, which one of them isn't respectful and reverent? How could there be a monk like martial ancestor? To tell the truth, the senior brothers and martial uncles in the temple are all cheering for martial ancestor in their hearts. This disciple can't wait for martial ancestor to be my Jinshan temple's abbot." Xiaohua found a place to sit down casually and sighed. It was a satisfying fight. You all also felt refreshed, but this poor monk's matter can be considered as a failure. Damn it, why is your abbot like this? When his mood is bad, he doesn't even listen to a single word from others. Moreover, he frequently uses his magical power to suppress others. Isn't that so? Mingxin also deeply felt the same. He turned the roasted yellow rabbit left and right and sighed. This disciple just like some wine and meat, it didn't delay anyone. This disciple originally didn't intend to become a monk, but was really forced to do so by others. In order to survive, this disciple had no choice but to become a monk. This disciple knows that this disciple has some misdeeds and has always been avoiding people. "Oh, right, martial ancestor, why are you looking for my abbot?" "Forget it, it's useless to tell you." No matter what methods the person used, he would ignore them all. Using Mingxin's words, great Zen master nirvana was the synonym for stinginess, cruelty, and jealousy. Chapter 3493. Could it be, your family's abbot doesn't have any hobbies? Xiaohua can't help but interrupt Mingxin's incessant rambling. Rather than listening to him talk about great Zen master nirvana's hobbies, it's better to say that he's complaining, talking about his own bloody history. Flattery. Mingxin answers without hesitation, however, even if you flatter him, he still won't agree to help you. Normal hobbies. For example, Buddhist tools or Buddhist techniques. No. Mingxin shakes his head, but then he explains, of course, disciple doesn't cultivate Buddhist techniques, so I don't know if abbot likes these. However, speaking of liking. Speaking to here, Mingxin hesitates. What's wrong? Xiaohua suddenly becomes spirited and asks. Mingxin thinks for a moment and says in a low voice, my family's abbot has a strange hobby, disciple only discovered it in recent years. What strange hobby? On the 30th day of the 12th lunar month 2 years ago, disciple went out to look for wine, but unexpectedly got drunk and didn't return to Jinshan temple in time. At night, the water level of the Qin River rose greatly. Disciple risked death to steal a small broken boat to cross the river. But when the boat reached the center of the river, I suddenly saw the abbot sitting on a tall rock by the river. At that time, disciple was scared out of his wits, kneeling on the small boat and kowtowing to admit his guilt. However, disciple kowtowed who knows how many times and saw that the small boat drifted far away, but the abbot still didn't open his eyes or open his mouth. Afterwards, disciple entered the temple in fear, but the abbot didn't seem to know about this matter and didn't mention it at all, nor did he punish disciple. Mingxin says carefully, so on the 30th day of the 12th lunar month last year, disciple couldn't sleep at night, so I sneaked out and secretly took a look. Guess what? What? Xiaohua's curiosity is piqued. Mingxin says with a mysterious face, there is no moon on the 30th day of the 12th lunar month. Disciple didn't know when the abbot sat on that tall rock again, as if he was asleep. Only when the morning sun shines on the abbot's body did the abbot disappear again. As if he never appeared. Don't you think it's strange? This can't be considered strange, right? Xiaohua doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. How can it not be strange? If he doesn't have something in his heart, if he's not thinking about something, who would stay awake the whole night and stare at the river in a daze? Even to the point that disciple next to him? Mingxin obviously wanted to say, which none are you thinking about? But looking at Xiaohua's bald head, he didn't dare to say it. 30th of the 12th lunar month? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and smiled. Today should be the 27th of the 12th lunar month, right? There are only a few days. Are you still planning to this, masters? This, S's he's this. Teat, Xiaohua pondered for a moment and understood. Back then, great Zen Master Nirvana most likely entered silence around the 30th day of the 12th lunar month, and the place where he entered silence was the tall rock beside the Chen River. However, for some unknown reason, he quickly escaped from silence. Afterwards, no matter what method great Zen Master Nirvana used, he was unable to enter silence again. Therefore, he was brooding over this, and every year, he would spend a night there to comprehend the feeling of entering silence, right? TT, Xiaohua sighs in his heart and says, little monk, it's best not to know too much about other people's secrets. Master may not notice if you peek once or twice, but if you're discovered by him 3 or 4 times, then even if you want to eat meat and drink wine, it'll be impossible. Think about it, if I can find you hiding here, how can Master not know if you're peeking from the side? Mingxin's forehead immediately breaks out in cold sweat. He hurriedly nods and says, disciple understands, disciple won't dare anymore. Xiaohua waves his hand and says, go, it's not early anymore. Although it's still raining, you need to return to the temple. Master's mood isn't good today, don't provoke him. Yes, disciple will return now. Mingxin looks at the gloomy sky outside the cave and estimates the time. He clasps his hands together and salutes before hurriedly leaving. After Mingxin left, Xiaohua looks at the messy cave and the scattered bones on the ground. He doesn't want to stay any longer. He walks out of the cave and slowly walks along the river in the rain. His mind is in a mess, but he can't sort it out. Master Nirvana was so remorseful when he left the Nirvana realm. It's clear that the Nirvana realm is extremely precious to the Buddha. Jianghu has already been in silence for 100 years and still hasn't woken up. It's likely that the opportunity hasn't arrived. Even if I find someone to wake her up, it may not be the right choice. After walking for a while, Xiaohua feels that he's really mentally tired. He casually finds a place, sits down cross-legged, closes his eyes, and calms his heart in this torrential rain. Several days have passed since he started meditating. When Xiaohua opens his eyes again, the sky is even darker, the rain is even heavier, and the water in the river has also risen by a lot. Xiaohua raises his head and sighs, the will of heaven is hard to fathom, the wind and clouds change, who knows what tomorrow will be. When Xiaohua's gaze inadvertently sees a trace of white in the east, he suddenly remembers that today is the 30th of the 12th lunar month. If it's as Mingxin said, then Master Nirvana should be sitting on the tall rock beside the river again. There's no harm in going and taking a look. Let's see if he has any sorrow in his heart. Although he advised Mingxin not to go, Xiaohua's curiosity was piqued. He steps and flies down the river while thinking to himself, if I can grab hold of this so-called great Zen master's little tail, let's see if he still dares to not listen to me. After several days of heavy rain, the water in the Qin River has become very turbulent. The inside of the river is very muddy. Some upstream sand, some branches, withered grass, and occasionally some thick logs and drowned livestock. Xiaohua guesses that the upstream of the Qin River was affected by the disaster and the livestock were washed into the river. Xiaohua carefully flies down the river and stealthily releases his soul sense. Sure enough, under the Golden Mountain Temple, a tall rock suddenly pops out. Master Nirvana is sitting on the rock. At this moment, Master Nirvana is really like Nirvana. There's no sound and there's no Buddhist light around his body. The torrential rain is more concentrated than water pouring down on his body. His monk's robe is already wet. His shiny bald head is covered in water. Even in the darkness before dawn, it can be seen clearly. Xiaohua doesn't dare to get too close. Xiaohua's soul sense swept past Master Nirvana and then looked at other places. He didn't see anything strange. Not to mention the nun, there's not even a shadow of a person. Xiaohua is a little disappointed. He knows that he's gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Just as he's about to retreat, his soul sense swept across the lower reaches of the Qin River. There's a floating corpse in the river. Xiaohua is startled. He hastily returns his soul sense. After taking a look, he sighed again. This floating corpse had already lost its vitality. Life is short. Xiaohua turns around. With his soul sense, he can't clearly see whether the floating corpse is male or female. This Master Nirvana is really Nirvana. He only thinks about how to be Nirvana and how to achieve fruition. Even if there's a floating corpse in front of him, he doesn't know how to fish it up. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's body suddenly quivers. A light flashes in his mind. That's right. Xiaohua's face was filled with wild joy. Immediately after, he looked at Great Zen Master Nirvana and then looked at the sky in the east. He didn't dare to be negligent. He pressed down on the cloud and waved his hand. From the yin-yang pond in the space, he took out a huge 7-colored lotus that he didn't know where he got it from. The moment the lotus entered the rain, it immediately emitted a 7-colored brilliance that blocked the rain outside the lotus. Namo Maitreya's Buddha. Xiaohua chants. Disciple sincerely prays that this disciple can save Jianghu's life. Saying this, Xiaohua shakes his hand again. Jianghu, whose eyes are tightly closed, is also taken out by him and sent into the 7-colored lotus. After some estimation, Xiaohua pushes his hand, and the 7-colored lotus, along with Jianghu, falls into the Qin River. Strange. At first, Xiaohua was still somewhat worried that the 7-colored lotus would sink into the water, or that Jianghu would fall into the river. At that time, the space did not have yin and yang, so one's age can't be counted. After the 5 elements stabilized, another 100 years have passed. Jianghu is still in nirvana. 100 years have not left any traces on his body. At this time, he still has the appearance of a child. The 7-colored lotus is more than enough to contain him. It's steady like a small boat. Seeing the 7-colored lotus drifting several feet away, Xiaohua is about to use the Devil Realm's concealment technique. Suddenly, his heart jumps. Not good, the 7-colored lotus is too dazzling. With the old monk's temperament, how can he tolerate such a Buddhist treasure? Thinking of this, Xiaohua hurriedly flew to the riverside, wanting to exchange it for something else. However, the place's soul consciousness was paying attention to, on the tall rock, Great Zen Master Nirvana seems to have made a slight movement. The horizon also revealed a trace of brilliance. Xiaohua is very anxious. He knows that this opportunity is fleeting. With a wave of his hand, the 7-colored lotus entered the space. Jianghu's figure is in a hurry. Xiaohua saw a broken wooden basin at the side. Without thinking, he sent it over and hurriedly hid himself in the void. Xiaohua's figure had just disappeared when Great Zen Master Nirvana's eyes opened. Coincidentally, the east is daybreak. Thousands of brilliance flew past. Amitabha. Great Zen Master Nirvana chanted the name of Buddha. His voice is filled with loneliness, regret, and helplessness. Following Great Zen Master Nirvana's Buddha chants, the torrential rain actually lessened. The clouds above Jinshan Temple thinned visibly. Great Zen Master Nirvana is facing Xinjiang. When he opened his eyes, he saw Jiang Luer sitting in the broken wooden basin with his hands together in nirvana. Great Zen Master Nirvana stares blankly, dumbstruck. Chapter 3494. This child is... Great Zen Master Jimye finally woke up from his stupor. He had been concerned about the matter of entering silence for many years and had thought about it countless times in his mind. Now that he saw Jiang Luer entering silence, he immediately saw through it. How could he not be stunned? Has she entered silence? Although Great Zen Master Nirvana's voice was questioning, he was certain. In the entire Pure Land, there were probably not many people who understood the phenomenon of entering silence better than him. Just as Great Zen Master Nirvana's gaze landed on Jiang Luer, the rain that had been pouring down for many days suddenly stopped on Sunday. The rain stopped and the clouds parted. Half of the morning sun's face peeked out from the horizon. Right above Jinshan Temple, a rainbow was born and hung horizontally between Jinshan Temple and the western heavenly realm. At the end of the rainbow was Jiang Luer, who was sitting on the wooden basin. Under the rainbow, Jiang Luer's body was overflowing with 7 colors. Under the 7 colors, there was a dense Buddhist light that suddenly rushed into the rainbow. An indescribable solemnity appeared on his face. Although the figure was sitting on the broken wooden basin with rainwater flowing out from the gaps in the wooden basin, in Great Zen Master Nirvana's eyes, it was like a 9th-grade golden lotus. Amitabha. Disciple Nirvana thanks Buddha for your kindness. Suddenly, Nirvana seemed to have understood something. Tears flowed out of his eyes. Ignoring his soaked kasaya, he knelt on the huge rock and respectfully kowtowed 9 times to the western heavenly realm. Not only was Nirvana stunned, even Xiaohua, who was hiding at the side, felt that it was inconceivable. All of this was done by him behind the scenes. But all the signs pointed to the fact that the rainbow could be born so casually? What was with the Buddhist light on Jiang Luer's body? How could all these be so coincidental? After Nirvana kowtowed 9 times, the rainbow that pierced through the heavens and the earth disappeared. Jiang Luer's broken wooden basin floated to the bottom of the huge rock. Great Zen Master Nirvana no longer hesitated. A Buddhist cloud appeared under his feet and landed on Xinjiang. With a rare smile on his face, he reached out and hugged Jiang Luer in his arms. He lowered his head and looked at the broken wooden basin. After thinking for a moment, he also took the wooden basin in his hands and turned into a Buddhist light and rushed into Jinshan Temple. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Xiaohua's figure appeared on the other side of Chen. Jiang Luer's face was still full of confusion and even had a trace of worry. In Xiaohua's imagination, when Jiang Luer was awakened, he should be by her side, and Jiang Luer should not be talking or communicating with anyone in the Pure Land world. But now, he had a sudden idea and really treated Jiang Luer as Jiang Luer and sent her down the river to Great Zen Master Jimye. Everything was out of his control. Not to mention Jiang Luer's Xiaoyu mainland accent, not to mention Jiang Luer's gradual familiarity with the unfamiliar environment. Even if Great Zen Master Jimye asked about Jiang Luer's background, Xiaohua did not dare to imagine how Jiang Luer would answer. Yellow Flower Ridge? 100 Herbs? Morning Rain Continent? How would Jiang Luer explain to Nirvana Master Nirvana? Forget it, forget it. Xiaohua scratched his short hair in distress and comforted himself. Since Luer appeared in Jinshan Temple and caused such a strange phenomenon, I'm afraid Luer really has some background. Such 2 spiritual creatures, if he did not use them now, when would he? This was a helper sent by the heavens. Although he was happy, Xiaohua was somewhat hesitant. After all, the 2 fire apes were not like Little Yellow and Little Yellow. The 2 were his children, while the fire apes were outsiders. Especially the fire ape from before, it had a bad temper and was unruly. If he let it protect Jiang Luer, it would eat Jiang Luer. However, if he let the fire ape protect Jiang Luer, Xiaohua was even more worried. Although that fire ape looked well behaved, its origin was very unclear. It suddenly appeared in the fog mountain and was taken in by him as soon as they met. Who knew what it was doing? What was special was that Xiaohua had an inexplicable vigilance towards this fire ape, an instinctive disbelief. Compared to the fire ape, Xiaohua believed that the one with a bad temper was more. That kind of unruly nature made people feel unyielding and rebellious. If he could give this fire ape some benefits, it might be able to make it feel grateful. However, the problem was that he had beaten up the fire ape more than once or twice. The fire ape hated him to the bone. If he were to give it a favor at this time, wouldn't it be too disrespectful to the fire ape? Wasn't it too straightforward? It was too obvious. What should I do? Xiaohua was once again at a loss. After thinking for half a day, an idea that could not be considered perfect appeared in his mind. At this time, Xiaohua did not have any particularly good ideas. He could only gamble. Of course, this gamble would not cost him anything. If there was a price to pay, the stingy Xiaohua would not do it. Then, Xiaohua released his Buddhist sense until it was 1,000 miles away. He looked at the situation within this 1,000 miles and then entered the space. When Jade Archive Xiaohua arrived at a place in the space, he raised both of his hands and moved his mind. The scene within a few miles began to quickly change, just like the outside. When the illusion within a few miles was completed, Jade Archive Xiaohua's figure rose again. As his figure slowly rose, the illusion extended into the distance. Okay. Seeing that the illusory realm had already enveloped the entire range of 1,000 miles, Jade Archive Xiaohua stopped and said with a satisfied smile, "Although this poor Taoist can't really move mountains and seas, it shouldn't be a problem to create an illusory formation to fool the fire ape, right?" After saying that, Jade Archive Xiaohua raised his hand again. With a loud rumbling sound, a tall mountain rose from the ground and soared into the sky. Only then did it stop. Looking at the bare mountain, Xiaohua pondered for a moment and then waved his hand. A little bit of green appeared on the mountain. The green quickly grew and turned into a towering pine tree. Under the pine tree, there were immortal herbs. Some turned into tall and straight bamboos that swayed with the wind. In the bamboo forest, there were some strange flowers competing with each other. It really looked like a fairyland. It seems like it's still missing something. Jade Archive Xiaohua looked at the beautiful scenery of the strange mountain and felt happy. He pinched his chin and thought carefully. After a moment, Jade Archive Xiaohua smiled and patted his forehead. Clear air spurted out from his head and landed on the strange mountain. He said, "How can there be no water when there is a mountain? How can there be no movement when there is still?" The clear air fell. Rumble. A waterfall flew down from the top of the mountain. The waterfall splashed in all directions and turned into large and small streams that coiled around the strange mountain. When the streams were formed, fish were born in the water. The sound of birds chirping in the foothills could be heard. Occasionally, there were the cries of beasts shaking the wilderness. Okay, I should have an immortal cave. Jade Archive Xiaohua smiled and nodded. He pointed his finger again. At the top of the mountain, in a secret place, an immortal cave appeared. The immortal cave's passageway went deeper and deeper. Finally, inside the cave, there were layers upon layers of exquisite pavilions. It was connected to the Pearl Palace and the Pearl Palace. It was an endless room to live in seclusion. That's enough. It's only an illusion. I'll let the fire ape see it. Xiaohua seemed to be very satisfied with the Jade Archive. He was just about to take out the spirit storage pouch, but looking at the somewhat simple and unadorned cave entrance, Xiaohua's mind was moved. He pointed his hand, and with a loud bang, a stone tablet was born at the top of the cliff at the cave entrance. It was over 10 meters tall and over 8 feet long. What name should I write? Good Fortune? Longevity with Heaven and Earth? Or Fortune Gate? I don't know if this fire ape's intelligence has been opened. It's better not to reveal too much. Jade Archive Xiaohua strangled these thoughts. Oh right, give it a name that is neither Buddha nor Tao. It doesn't need to know everything. Others won't be able to guess it. This is it. Jade Archive. Xiao Hua waved his sleeve and 10 golden words appeared on the stone tablet. Spiritual Fengzun Mountain, Slanting Moon and 3 Stars Cave. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.